All right. Yeah. Action. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Strangest Fruit podcast. Make sure and hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment. We always want you to interact with us. You could follow us on all platforms. Today we got Franky Carillo, which I spoke to you earlier. I was telling you it's another full circle moment for me. I met him for the first time when I was in Courtroom in 2014. He came with Scott Budnick, Elizabeth Calvin, Javier Starring. You had just recently got out at the time. And that was a pivotal moment in my life because, you know, as I shared with you, I was literally in the process of going through my change. And I'm talking about like a change of my thought process, how I behaved, what I wanted in life. And yeah, so it's amazing like to be literally sitting here with you, talking to you now. So welcome to our show and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, and
by the way, I wore sort of a little prison attire here, light blue, some darker blue, and some brown. Just make sure that you recognize me and
I threw on a collar.
You wore the prison pants.
Usually,
again?
this is the guy with the collar dressed up.
Yeah, this is my outside prison look, but it's the same colors,
It's too hot.
Yeah,
I couldn't do it. It's 100 and some degrees in my house. I said, take me as I am, like we're going to church.
Yeah.
Why not?
And it's also special that you're on the show today too, because, I did 29 years, he did 17 years. So we feel the responsibility of representing like the prisoner class, the idea that change is possible. Started off like for the few people in the world that don't know your story, share with us, please.
Yeah, again, guys, thanks for having me. I'm an LA boy, man. I'm born here, born and raised. I see the Spanto, right behind Dante here.
Rest in peace, Spanto.
It's I was born in Boyle Heights General Hospital in 1974, which makes me 49 years old. Mom and dad were, had been here in the U.S. for about 3 or 4 years from Mexico. I'm one of 4 children, and we were brought up in Lynwood. So Lynwood is on the south side of town. At the time, early on, I experienced white flight. So it was, predominantly a lot of Caucasian families still there. But as life went on, it became a cornucopia of just LA, like everywhere else. And it was, talking about, 80s, mid, late, and then ultimately into the early 90s. And then my life took was turned upside down. But I think as my youth, I was a happy kid. If you ask me, I was always very optimistic. My dad was an older father. He had all the tools in the garage, and I was an 8-year-old with the welding helmet on, and messing with the mini bikes, and I'm at the just doing stuff, man. I was the kid who always said yes to when someone said, "Hey, you know how to fix something?" Like, yeah, I know how to do that. Can you help me with my roof? Like, yeah, and so, It was cool to be in a world where my parents, were cool with me just sort of being out and about, which is very different nowadays. I'm a dad, and I can't even imagine my kid on a bike, a block away from me or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you grow up like, was it like an impoverished neighborhood? Do you remember like struggling? Like, what would you say are the things that like kind of formed you?
It's interesting, bro. My parents had divorced. Typically, the father leaves. Whatever culture. Typically, the mom stays with the kids and the dad bounces. In my case, it was the other way around. Moms, for a number of reasons, she just was kind of done being a mom and a wife, and so she left the family. So my dad raised myself and my siblings. I felt like I grew up in an abandoned city. Like when I was growing up, there was like diners and bowling alleys that were like from a previous era. Helen Grace was like an old candy store that was in Lynwood. And so it had these, it had dairies and stuff like that, that were definitely not from, this sort of my era at least.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I ever bowled, but I would walk into the bowling alley and they had like a little, like, where they would give you your little, banana splits and your little float. Lynwood was like, right next to Compton where Nixon lived as a kid, right?
Richard Nixon.
A former president, there's stories about like that. This world, was predominantly like a safe space for whatever, 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on. and it had the remnants of like what it used to look like. But now the diner had become, a Mexican restaurant, but the name was still there and so on.
Yeah,
But
okay.
it was transitioning into a new dynamic there. But I wouldn't call it I would sort of define Lynwood at the time as a really good city. That the bones are really good, but what started happening was like the drug epidemic showed up.
Yeah.
Gang violence was extremely hard in that area.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My family's from Compton and Lynwood, and the way that my auntie was describing it is the same way you're describing it. And she's like, yeah, people had pools, they had manicured lawns, and everybody was going and playing people's yards. This is what it was like. So you were there before the crack era.
I'll tell you that another dynamic is that Lynwood sat in a geographically like wonky spot, because to on one side you had the 710 freeway in the riverbed, and then beyond that was Downey. Downey, Lakewood, but mainly Downey. And at the time, Downey was like a very well protected white city.
Yeah.
And if you lived in Downey and you weren't white, you sort of thought like a white person, or you sort of like believe that there's like a bubble, like we're like in a different dynamic over here. But on that side of the riverbed, it's Lynwood.
Okay. Yeah.
And then on the west side was the tracks, Alameda. And then you went to Watts and sort of South Central, Compton, Willowbrook.
Southgate, Long Beach.
Yep.
Then you go on the other side, Bellflower.
Yep.
Then ease up a little bit. It's Norwalk. It's like stuck. It's like,
Exactly. But Lynwood had like, it had like an identity crisis. Were you rolling with the blacks or were you rolling with the whites?
Right.
And then the middle was kind of like a sort of safe space. But I think as time went on, I think that what made it very clear was like law enforcement. Right. So law enforcement patrolled Lynwood as if it was still a white city. So, here's folks from, deputy sheriffs who are maybe living in West Covina, Huntington Beach, not Park, sort of outsiders coming in to patrol. And
I like how you specified that Huntington Beach,
Yeah,
not Park.
yeah,
It's
no,
total difference right
totally
there.
different, different,
Don't get off on the wrong exit.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there was growing up, there was this dynamic with the local deputy sheriffs there, and I think they didn't realize that the white people had left, that it was a different dynamic here, but they patrolled it as if they were like working in Downey or whatever, right? And then
And what year are you talking about, Rare?
I'm talking about like early 80s.
Okay.
When I was maybe going to junior high school, it was like 85. It's interesting about like, just like how sometimes you think about, just listening to something on the radio yesterday about, people understand now that, there's always this sort of how we're starting this conversation about like where you grew up determines a number of things. People know that now, but they still live in certain spots that there's a preconceived notion about like where they're going to end up, youth.
Yeah.
But they're still there. So like if I knew, I'll just pick Watts, since someone's here from Watts, that, the likelihood of you going to a university or you being untouched by the judicial system is kind of rare. More than likely you will be, somehow involved. If you live there, for a number of reasons, people obviously still live there, which is great. But this thing that I was catching on the radio yesterday was that like, there's other folks who say, you know what, I got to leave California. I got to leave LA. I got to be somewhere else where the likelihood of my child succeeding is more important than me being near my grandma or whatever. So
Yeah.
So you meaning as in school to prison pipeline?
yeah, I mean,
Because
yeah,
you
that's
look at
definitely
Watts,
one of them.
most
Yeah.
of the people that go to Watts, they go to a specific school, and then they end up going to Jordan, and then after Jordan is where you meet. It's the meetup of all the gangs or
Right.
the areas from kids going. Nobody's getting bussed out from Pacific Palisades to go to Watts to go to school because of their programs. People are either getting bussed out or you're staying here, and when you're here, when in Rome.
And shout outs to Watts too. I mean, Watts is a beautiful city too. So I'm not knocking. We're just.
Oh yeah,
picking
no,
that
what?
one,
No,
right?
it's just the. I mean, the dynamics of Watts.
Yeah.
Watts was a railroad city, so everybody that came, like what Eli was saying, everybody that came from the South, They needed places to go. So Watts was one of those places. People worked on the railroads. Watts was a really nice city.
Yeah.
Compton was a nice city, and it was farmland.
Yeah, I remember my grandpa saying
And
that.
even in South Central was predominantly owned by Jewish folks. And then when they left out, other people came in. They're like, all right. So where it was this small business, mom and pops, delis, and all that, every other block you have mortuary and a liquor store now. So there's kind of.
And I think even when I was growing up, I think neighborhoods, if it was the Pyrus, the Crips, the Southsiders, I mean, you sort of learned like where the lines were, the invisible lines about, be careful what you're wearing. I remember walking from Lynwood to the Compton Indoor when it was, not when it was brand new, but at some point it's a long walk. And I remember almost getting there, and I had some Adidas on. And the dude I was with said, "Damn, Frankie, like your shoes have a little bit of red in them." And I swear to God, I was thinking, like, how do I take off these like red, orangey stripes?
Yeah.
I was a Bengals fan when I was a kid, and it was like black Adidas with these like orangey stripes. And it was like my first time remembering, like, I'm going to be either judged or preconceived to be part of a group because of this color on my shoe. And it really bothered me because I was even trying to take them
clicked
off.
at that time.
Yeah, because this guy, he planted the seed about like, oh shit, man, we're gonna get in trouble now because like what you're wearing, and it was just like we're like a block away. We had walked miles to get there, and like, oh, here we go, And I was really concerned as a kid, like thinking, damn, I don't want to, whatever, I don't want to be assaulted or hit up about why you're wearing those red, whatever, right? So, but yeah, so then you learn about these dynamics that are around you, and then it seemed everyone was just aware of it,
Yeah. You said you were a Bengals fan. Are you still one?
It's crazy, man. My dad had a lot of friends, man. And one day my dad's friend swung by the pad, and maybe the beer was running low, and my dad said, "Hey, go with Chewy to the local Chinese store," is what they referred to it back then off on Atlantic Boulevard. And he was trying to be a cool friend of my dad, so he's like, "Hey, pick a hat, any hat." So behind the cashier, there was like a treasure trove of like every potential team back there, and I could have swore I pointed at the Raiders hat. Because it was Raider, we were in town. And I just said, give me the black and white one, and the dude gave me the Bengals hat, and I'm stuck with this Bengals hat, wearing it. That was my only like kind of cool new hat.
Yeah,
and so I just by default became a Bengals fan.
It's stuck.
I was a Miami Dolphins fan for a lot of years because I went to my friend's house and I seen Dan Marino in front of like a mansion with like a Lamborghini, and it just looked so cool. And I was like,
That's all it takes, man.
If I'm a Dolphins fan.
Hope you had a shirt on.
And today's white moment brought to you by Don James. You always had every episode is one of them Dolphins.
Yeah, well,
Dolphins?
I like it was more about the mansion and the Lamborghini. And, yeah, but I ended up jumping ship, and now I'm a Rams fan now. But
I'll tell you guys that Lynwood. This is now. We're talking about 1990, and Lynwood was at the apex of just like the city, maybe, right?
Yeah.
It's obviously a little bit before the Rodney King riots and all that, but
Going to old Lynwood High.
Old Lynwood High School on Bullis Road.
That's where you went.
No, I didn't go there,
okay,
but that was kind of like a hub.
Yeah, that's kind of nasty. Yeah, because if you're looking at the geographics of the area and the gangs. That's hard for a kid. That's hard to live in that. Because it's like, I went to Dominguez, so
I know
you're
Dominguez.
clarified by this, like how you said.
Rosecrans, right?
Where are you? Where do you live? It's not where you're from, it's where do you live? So in your era, 1990, that was the year I was born.
Yep.
All the way 20-something years later, that still is there. Where do you live? Are you on this side of the bridge? Do you walk down Bullis? Because if you walk down Bullis, we know where you're from. If you walk down, what's this? Alondra, Compton Boulevard, we know where you're from. And then it comes to choose a side. But Lynwood, like you said, is such a like mix. Because you have Lynwood Paragons, you got the mobs, you got the 211s, you got the dudes from Southgate. So everybody's here just pushed in one big mix. It's like it's where the institutionalization comes in.
But I'll tell you before we get into that part of the story. When I graduated from 6th grade elementary school, the summer between 6th and 7th grade, which determined elementary and junior high school, I remember like the weekend before school was going to start. Like, I don't know who it was, but someone kind of rode around on their bike and said, "Hey, everybody who's going to junior high this Monday, like we're gonna have a meeting. And I'm thinking, okay, cool, a meeting, right?
A meeting?
Like, damn, they're calling the meeting.
Okay.
Youngsters, right? These are like 11, 12, whatever age you are.
Yeah.
And sure enough, man, so that was me. I applied. I qualified for this. Who's going to junior high school. So I show up. A lot of dudes I know from elementary school. Other guys I know because it's a small knit community. And the dudes who were there who were now eighth graders in Hostler Junior High School in Lynwood, they basically said, like, look, guys, here's what's going on. Like it or not, because you live on this side of Atlantic, they're gonna classify you as being part of the local gang.
Well, who said this?
These are dudes who were already the local gang that where I live.
Okay.
They're already saying, like, hey, like, just FYI.
Oh, okay.
I'm giving you guys a heads up.
Got you.
He getting laced.
Yeah.
You're getting laced, exactly.
Okay.
So we from where home was, it was about a 2-mile walk back and forth from the school. And so they were just kind of giving you a breakdown about like what to expect. It's applied to the girls and the boys, obviously. And so the guy was basically saying, like, look, if you guys want to kind of see for yourselves, or you guys want to come with us, we'll be meeting at Jack's Donuts on Monday morning at 7 in the morning, and we're all going to walk to the school. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm walking with the group, right? So we're walking to school, and get to school, and we go down like behind Lynwood Park and into the main entrance of the school, past Bullis, and we're in the school now. And it was as if like the whole school was waiting for us. There might have been about, I don't know, give or take maybe 30 of us, both boys and girls, first day of school. And we walk in, and we walked into like the plaza, I guess, of the school.
Yeah, like the quad. Like
The quad, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The main yard, right?
Yeah,
So it was my first moment of the main yard,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And
sense.
flat out, man, it was a full-on riot, man. Like everyone was like, here they come, here they come, here they come, here they are, attack, dude. And so this is my so what these guys were talking about, this pre-meeting warm-up thing was legit.
Damn.
And so that was my introduction to this dynamic.
That was your baptism.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's like history repeats itself because I went through the same thing. So during summer school, LA Unified School District decided we're going to mix Whaley and Roosevelt together and put them all in one school. So the guys that were going to Whaley have to go now to Roosevelt, which is located Kelly Park, Southside, neighborhood Compton. So you have all the guys that blood family members, Paru family members, they're walking way over here. And the same thing happened. As soon as the front gate opened, a riot erupted on a junior high school football field.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And so you get into like, I'm just ditching. I'm pretending I'm going to school, but I'm not going to school because I don't want any more of that, right? So then you might go every so often, and you leave early. You start finding the little windows of opportunity to like avoid the drama. And so you leave before lunch, or you leave before a fifth period, or you leave,
Fight or flight.
exactly, And so, it's trippy, man. And then we'll move on to the incarceration and so on.
Right.
But
Shout out to your pops, man.
That's right,
Shout out,
man.
that's like with the field that I'm in, is now I'm teaching kids, and it's hard as hell to teach kids, let alone be full-time parent, like going to work, coming home, doing this, then it's like, all right, school's calling and all that. So that's, shout out to the dads out there doing it by themselves. That's they don't get enough credit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Pops did a great job, man. And I drop his name every time I get. So thank you for beating me to the punch. But I will say that it's still it's dad, but it's my aunt, it's the neighbor. It's always a village, And
Indeed.
but Pops is obviously Pops is there, And so this is a little funny nuanced story. So there was a dude in the neighborhood who was exempt from all this drama that I was telling you about, and I noticed him. And I'm like, damn, why is this guy like, who is he? Like, why is he not being like, why is he going to school? Why is he like,
Who you
why is he
working with?
not? Yeah, exactly, right? And I realized my only like visual that was different was that he would wear like Latigras were like kind of in at the time. He would have like a yellow one, and he would have like a pink one. He would have like a salmon colored one. So he looked different.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone else is rocking like just the dark clothes or just like, clothes that were like for adults. They were kind of, wearing stuff that
You had the starter jacket,
the starter jacket, and
members only jacket.
you're wearing a jacket when it's hot and you're still wearing a jacket,
Yeah.
And I remember going, we would go shopping to the Compton Indoor, and I remember telling my sister, I said, they were from the hood too, from the neighborhood, and I just like was tested the water and said like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Like, it was like a salmon. It wasn't pink.
Went crazy.
They were like, man, you better put that shit down, like,
Right.
and it really shamed me,
Right.
because I think what I was trying to do at 13 years old was trying to separate myself by what I was wearing, but they weren't supporting it.
Oh damn, you were like trying to find a way out, wow.
Yeah, I was trying to be different.
Yeah.
I couldn't move. I couldn't like denounce, what was I gonna do? Like just like pack my little bag and leave, So I was trying to be different in that fishbowl, and
Dang. And you consciously knew like this is not what I wanted.
there was a visual. There was like an example of the dude who was cutting, like just being invisible. He was invisible to his little yellow or pink shirt. Latigra, he was still rocking his little, knockoff Latigra or whatever, or whatever they were called, like a
Right.
whatever kind of like
Lacoste.
Yeah, Lacoste. Yeah, exactly, right.
That little gator thing.
Tiger, tiger climbing up.
Yeah.
Because if that wouldn't have been the thing, him dressing like that, my next thing would have been like, your mom and daddy must be the police.
Right.
Ain't nobody gonna mess with the police kids.
Yeah.
No, sir. So that's man, you actually were trying. Like, he's like, I'm about to change up the whole
Wardrobe.
The whole
Do you
wardrobe.
ever think like if I would have ever got that salmon Latigra shirt, my life would have took a whole nother like
This
it was
would've
the
been a
salmon
whole-
Latigra shirt. Like,
You probably walk past it in the mall, right?
Damn. Only if, right? Only if.
Get
Yeah,
these
yeah.
folks. I got a couple kids that need this right here. Put it on. I don't care. All right, so that's
Yeah, but it's trippy, man. But so life went on, and I would by default, you want to go to school. You're a kid, man.
Right.
You just left elementary, so
yeah.
of course, the neighborhood causes other upheavals and drama. So I've been stabbed before. So before I was, by the time I was 16 years old, I had been stabbed easy about 10 different times.
I didn't know that
And,
part.
Yeah, so I think it's bizarre. I even sort of like wonder how that all happened, but fist fights were like the people just fought. That was like a language, man. Like, what are you looking at? Oh, here we go, right? So you're fighting.
Yeah.
And it went from fighting to the dude with the knife. And I'm thinking I would just have another fist fight. I'm not gonna, run from that like that. Next whatever, right? Another one. And then I would be like, damn, my leg is hot. And then, oh shit, the dude stabbed me. And like, oh, that's different. And then, you go to school and, you get jumped and here we go again. There's that hot spot on your back or whatever, right? Like, oh, I've been stabbed again. And it's, I never walked into it like they said, hey, I'm going to stab you. It starts off like, oh, let's have a fight.
Yeah.
Like, I want to test you, or we're just going to fight because this is what we do. This is how we communicate. And then it kind of leads to that. And so,
or it's that one dude that's I seen it. The person, because I was taught by some older dudes, and it was you run across a dude, he has a gun. If that dude's willing to put that gun down and fight, you fight that man, and then you walk away from it. Now you have, not even now, but back then you always have that person that's really a coward on the inside, but their outside has the bravado of, I'm the king of the jungle. He know he can't whoop you, but I can't let everybody see me lose to this dude.
right.
Not him.
Right.
For some reason, you're him. Like, I'm
Right.
not him, whoever that individual is. So he wants to take it up a notch. 9 times out of 10, you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Stabbing somebody, that is a very intimate. It takes a lot for a person to do something like that.
Yeah.
And,
No,
and
you're right.
That's before what you were 10,
No, before by the time I was 16.
16.
But I'll tell you that I think if I would have seen the knife, I would have like, hey, I'm cool, man,
sure.
whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of these things where you just kind of going into it because that's just kind of what happens there. It's
Just what
not
you do.
you're not looking for it. It's just dudes want to fight, and it's funny. Years ago now, since I've been out, I kind of give you the cat's out the bag that I was on the inside. But now that I'm out, I met a dude who said he had never fought in his life. He never had a fist fight. I go, maybe like really, dude? Like never had like a headlock or like a
I had a
punch
cellie
in?
in prison like that. He
Oh,
was-
really?
Yeah, 29. Never fought in his life.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
What? How'd he get to jail? Wire fraud?
It was actually like a carjacking. He was a college student who got stuck on Adderall, and his brain like zeroed on this idea that I got to get to work Monday. He let his girlfriend borrow his white Honda Accord, and he in his mind said, I need a Honda Accord. I need a Honda Accord. This is like a dude that's never committed a crime in his life, and he did a carjacking. Like he told the lady, hey, I need your car. I need to go to work, like high on Adderall. I read the transcripts. It's like, it was almost like a 20-minute carjacking. Like he helped about her insurance. He let her, he took her groceries out of the car, but
What the fuck?
yeah, well, that's the guy that like never,
Just Selly, yeah.
yeah, that was my Sally.
But then that
God
also,
willing, coming home in like a year.
Man, he's still in?
Yeah, he's coming home in a year. He's in fire camp right now.
You get that car ready for him, man, you know? And he gets out.
But that also shows the you weren't even able to see the signs. We don't see the signs at those times.
Right.
You got stabbed 10 times and you didn't die.
Mm-hmm.
You had a purpose. God had a purpose for you. Like, look, man, all right, I'm gonna put you through this, put you through this, put you through this. So it started off for you at a young age where your path was supposed to go.
It's trippy, bro. Yeah. It's, it's just, I would, at some point I started thinking, man, there's no other people telling me they've been stabbed a bunch of times.
Right.
And I realized that, like I said, like if I would have known there was a gun or a knife, I would have say, hey, I'm, cool, man. I would have ran or whatever. But then as a kid, I would flip that, right? Like, yeah, I was, whatever. Like to your point, like they felt they were losing or whatever, so they had to go dirty or whatever. And so, but you're right. Like, luckily, there was one that was really close to my back, my spine, and that was a big group of guys who had jumped me. And so, yeah, you're right, man. I'm grateful. Never really thought about it that way, but I'm grateful I survived those stab wounds as well. Yeah.
And real nasty. And back then, that's when ice picks were going in. That's internal bleeding. They'll never know where it came from. You just bleed out somewhere. So that's sheesh. So that was high school? Going into high school or junior?
That's like
16 years old?
Junior high school, man. Yeah. Like young cat, just, it's, I'm telling you, man, the neighborhood, everyone is sort of like pretending, practicing. There was never some like 40-year-old dude trying to stab you. I never found someone, who was older, but like that just was like something people did, and it seems kind of, I'm not trying to excuse it, but like, unfortunately, I was the guy who was like stabbed, Yeah.
And it goes to show the tribalism, the tribal aspect of it. It goes to show actually where people came from, because that's where I seen my first stabbing. It wasn't in prison. It was on streets. And it wasn't from gang stuff. It was a grown man and a kid playing with a grown man. And the grown man said, look, old school Southern dude went in the military, my stepdad. Don't play with grown folks. Kid wanted to keep playing. All right, put him out, sliced him. There you go. I bet you won't do it again. So it was, that's how easy it was. Pops used to always have a knife. Like, that's why I don't get surprised when I walk around and I see older dudes and they have the knives. I'm like,
that is old school. Yeah,
they use a knife for everything.
Buck knife on their hip right there.
Oh man,
you hear the snap come up.
The sink's leaking. Let me go get a screwdriver. Give him a knife. It's a tool for everything.
You got some spinach in your tooth here.
Our old boss, I seen Micah at a kid's birthday party. He was like, all right, so the tie down stuck in the ground, pulls his knife out, lifts the thing up on the part, flips it back in, puts it in. It's an accessory.
Right.
Depends on what you're using it with. So
I normally carry a knife too, but just not today.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I can make you one real quick, but all right.
I see that, right?
Yeah, we got a few right here. Okay, so that moment or the days leading up.
So we left Lynwood. So Pop's like, you know what, this is a little too much now. It was myself, my little brother, sister had married off. We left Lynwood and went to Maywood, which isn't, it wasn't Lynwood, but it was Maywood, and it was about 7 miles away. Different, I went to school in Montebello. Not too many friends, but it was a new life. And there was still some folks still back in Lynwood who we knew and so on. But my sisters that lived there were still living there with their families. And I really, at the days leading up to my arrest, it was a new life. So sort of Lynwood was behind me, and now we're in Maywood and so on. I remember this interesting dynamic that was unfolding in my life. I was really enjoying school. I hadn't been going to school because of all the obvious reasons back in Lynwood, and I was really enjoying being a student. I was now around Asians and whites, and there was another cornucopia of just people like from Monterey Park and Montebello and other places of the city that I was like learning about. And they had like this school had like open campus for lunch. You could go get a pizza and come back, and they had a football team. And it was, I just felt like I was like true American moment, dude. Like I'd finally arrived.
It's almost like a vacation, like finally free of all this weight and all these circumstances around you.
I think the hypervigilance of the life that I had been living in Lynwood, my senses had a break. I was now in a space where I was able to
take a deep breath
and just
Were you able to?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Were you still on Lynwood mode for?
No, I think it definitely sunk in really quickly. This was very different. This was Lynwood mode. Right?
Yeah.
L mode.
Yeah, because it was cool, But so here's the moment, man. So I remember we're living in a 1-bedroom apartment. My father and I, my little brother. And I remember I needed a haircut really bad. And my girlfriend at the time, she was pregnant. So the one thing that was like still Lynwood was that I had impregnated my then 15-year-old girlfriend. I was 16, she was 15.
Okay.
And I was afraid of her dad finding out. So it was all kind of coming together, right? And then my father knew, her father knew, and her family. But still, like, I wasn't ready to be a father, and all those complexities were like at the table. And back to my haircut, man. So I needed a haircut bad. And I remember January 23rd, 1991, I had seen my father before he went to bed. I would like see him, like the door would be cracked, and I would see him in his underwear, and he would be on his knees on the side of the bed praying. And he never taught us how to pray. He never invited us to pray. That was his thing. And if you saw it, you saw it. If not, you wouldn't even know he prayed. And I felt my life was like a lot of pressures. Obviously, the main one was like my girlfriend's pregnant. I'm going to school. Like this tug of like Lynwood, my new world, and so on, right? But mainly just being afraid to be a dad. And I think it's unfortunate, but I was just not prepared to be a father at that young age. And we weren't a religious family, but I got on my knees. I slept on the couch that night, got on my knees, and I prayed. I don't know what I said, but the next day I was awakened by the sheriff's department knocking down my front door.
Like the 5 a.m. raid, the whole.
But this case was 6 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah. So January 24th, 1991, city of Lynwood, rudely awakened by the Lynwood Sheriff's Department. The entire apartment was just rattling. They couldn't get in. It was a metal door, and I reached over and I opened it, and they came in. Of course, all the the script plays out. Get on the floor, spread your legs or spread your arms, and then they're kind of just ransacking the place, right? My dad comes out of his room, and he's laying next to me, kind of face to face, and he's like, "What happened? Like, what did you do?" I'm like, "Nothing." Like, I'm just like, I'm not sure why they're here. And I don't know if I might have said, like, maybe it was my little brother. Like, maybe they're looking for him. I don't know. Like, I'm just at a loss as well. And he's asking, and they're ignoring him. And eventually they tell me to put my clothes on. And what I didn't say a minute ago was that the night before I had ironed my clothes to go to school because it was a Thursday or Friday. So the ironing board was still out. The clothes I was going to wear that day were still there. And I put them on. I got dressed as if I was going to school, but instead I was going to jail.
Los Padrinos?
So they first took me to the sheriff's station in Lynwood. Yeah, man.
And you're clueless. Did they tell you at any point, like?
No, these guys, there's a backstory. Now, I'll weave it in a minute, but there was the Lynwood Vikings were the local sheriff deputy gang in Lynwood. So I knew them. They knew about me and my family and everybody else. They're really good at their nexus. They're aware of who's there. So these guys are the ones that now they're here in Maywood looking through my stuff, right? And so, no talk, and they might have said something in the car, but these are just transportation. They weren't, they weren't doing any interrogation or anything. And so when I get to the sheriff's station, they put me in front of this deputy Goran, or I think it's Goran is how he pronounces it. Big, buff dude, and he's reading my rights, and I was being arrested initially for a shooting that happened in Compton, off of like Long Beach Boulevard and like Tam's. There's like a hamburger joint, and it was kind of like near there. And I knew nothing about it, so nope, that wasn't me.
Tams.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ate at Tams.
Oh, you did?
When I went to go visit his neighborhood, we stopped by Tams. Yeah.
So we, going through the motions about like, okay, you're being arrested for the shooting that happened in Compton or maybe Lynwood, and okay, cool. Like
What are you thinking right now? Like what?
It was just like it happened so quickly. But he said, "Well, wait, it's not over yet. Someone else wants to talk to you." So I said, "Okay." So I just sat there. I mean, I'm not like walking around the station. So I sit there, and I felt like that was just like a little preliminary moment there for them.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, we got you for the shooting. Like, okay, then you can be on LP, but stand by. So I'm shuffled from one interrogation room to another. And I get there, and so, we're going through the motions again about, you have the right to remain silent. You're being accused of the murder of Donald Sarpy. And so, the first one was what the warrant was out for. So the warrant was for this, like, shooting in Compton that, there was really no identification. So it was sort of easy to get a judge to sign that warrant for my arrest. But now that they had me in custody, they dropped this murder charge on me, 5 minutes later.
Oh, so the first one was just a ruse to get you into station.
I think because I think that if they were looking to arrest me for this murder, because it was such a sloppy case, I don't think a judge would have signed that warrant arrest. So I think the other one was a ruse to just get me arrested, and then once they had me, then you drop this other charge on me. So, so I get there, and I've said it before, and I'll share it here. Is that like I really chuckled because I really thought like. One, it was a serious charge, but I was like, me, a murderer? Like there was that kind of like response, like you're messing with me.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not to minimize the death of Donald Sarpy, but it was just like, come on, like where's
you got the wrong guy.
You got the wrong guy, and it's like a natural response to like, relax, dude, like you're playing me or whatever.
And had you had any prior altercations with them that would cause them to want to like have animosity towards you, or
who the
police?
I mean, it's the Lynwood Vikings. So like it was a dynamic in the city where like the neighborhood or the city as a whole was in this feud with like the citizens with law enforcement.
Okay,
so there's like this long history about like abuse, So
we gave each other that look because
the Vikings
always, I'm always putting all that shit on blast. So I'm the 3,000 boys, the Vikings, the guys that they have over at the Compton station, all these different gangs that they have created, and then I let people know. I'm giving them what it is, the truth. And one of the initiations for these gangs is you have to do an active shooting to be a part of these gangs. The 3,000 boys that run the Los Angeles County Jail down there, and those basements and those 3,500 fish roll around that weird stuff that's going on where the lights go off and it's just water and sewage running through there. There's a gang that lives in there that's worse than the alleged worse.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And how am I supposed to trust the people that are supposed to protect? So there's no trust in the community if you have guys running around being cowboys.
Right. Exactly. Well put. Well put. And so, they go, I think we went through the motions about a 5 or 10 minute interrogation, which was, where was I on January 18th at 7 p.m. And so they were really asking me about 6 days prior. And I remember exactly where I was at. I had gone to school that day, came home, did some chores around the house. I'm new to school, so I have my books. I drew. I was drew as a kid, so I was, the books were out, the pencils were out. There was actually a party that night at my new school, a football or some event that they were inviting me to, and called my mom. We didn't have a ride, and the phone where we lived, our our telephone wasn't a landline. It was the local public phone in front of a restaurant that was right there. And I learned as a kid that, I don't know about all phones, but this specific phone, if you dial that number that was listed on the phone, it would ring.
Damn, that is so 90s right there.
I would give people that number as like, hey, what's your number? I would give them the damn payphone number, right? So,
cool as hell,
you know,
yeah.
it's a
I
trip,
want to do
dude.
that. Let's get a phone booth.
That's a great story. Yeah,
You know, so that was my jam, you know. So like, you know, things were rough, you know. So that was just what we get. So
And at this time, real quick, were the laws passed where officers are not allowed to interrogate a child without the supervision or an adult being around, being that if the child doesn't have the direct mother or father there, Department of Children and Family Services sends out an emergency social worker to sit in with the child?
You know, I'm not sure if the laws were in place. I wouldn't say no, but I think by practice, it was an expectation that I had. So I think looking back now, I think I was expecting my father to show up and say, you know, I'm here, let's talk now, right? So that they bypassed that for me.
Case dismissed.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy, you know?
Yeah, don't we all?
So, you know, so I I'm home, and this is kind of my space here, and asked my mom, hey mom, like, you know, can I borrow your car? Because, you know, I want to go, you know, there's this party, right? And she was kind of back in my life. She was living in East Los Angeles. And she's like, oh, let me go see. And, you know, it's making some noise. So call me back in a few minutes. And so I called her back and like, Miko, I'm sorry, but, you know, it's not working right or whatever. So cool. I just stayed at the pad. Pop showed up from work. We had dinner and then went to bed. Next day I went to work with my dad. Very like easy to remember. And so told him what I'm telling you. And they're just like, no, that's not what happened. We have a witness. And I say, boy, we have a witness that will testify that you shot the gun it was a drive-by shooting, that you shot the gun out of his moving car, and he places you at the scene of the crime. And so basically we got you. And then they went into this like attitude about like, just tell us you did it. We know the judge. We'll try to get you like a good deal, but like basically like give it up, you know.
Whoa.
The whole script, yeah.
We're talking about deals, and it's been 15 minutes. At least take me out on a date before you try to fuck me down. I mean, sheesh. They 10, 15 minutes, and we already talking about deals and how we going to do this. That's and you're only, what, 16?
16 years old, yeah.
And they're doing it, letting you marinate in the room for hours and then come in. Are they doing that whole?
You know, right? I wish that I had that. You know, I think what I was envisioning, looking back, maybe it didn't happen while it was happening, but I envisioned, you know, you watch enough TV, you watch enough, you know, Mad magazines or whatever whatever you get your information from. You got the light, they got the dude coming in and, you know, punching you up a little bit, and he walks out, and they starve you for a while, whatever, right? Again, it was just like conveyor belt. That one initial one, now this one, now let's get him in the car and drive him to Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall.
Dang.
Like we got him. Let's just go.
And what are you thinking on this ride to LP? I mean, what's going through your mind? Like,
you know, it's so bizarre, man. But I remember very vividly this attitude that I naturally adopted on the spot, which was like, I'll be there for 3 days. I'll be there for whatever, I don't know, a day. It was like, oh, this is like all like will be any day now. Just be like, it'll be a cool story. It'll be a cool story to tell my friends back in high school, you know. And this very like bravado attitude, dude, of like I was like awake in a dream, and I was aware of it. Like it was like such a bizarre kind of out of body experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was waiting on that moment with you because I'm like, when is it gonna come? You know, some dudes get shot, they turn into Tupac. I'm untouchable. Like, you know, I got shot 5 times. 50 Cent. I'm me against the world. I don't care about nobody. I've been shot. Yeah, so I'm like, he's been stabbed 10 times. He's been so humble and just cool about it. I'm like, all right. And when is this, you know, that side gonna come out? Like, and it happened in this part of the chat. I was like, that's cold. Like, as you know, that ride to LP, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember the whole back of the car. They stopped right there by the burger joint. Believe it or not, they went to the donut shop and told me, next time we got you. Yeah. You know, next time we'll give you a donut. And then riding around the corner past the golf course, making that right turn, pulling up into the R&R, going into the holding tank, then sitting in there taking that cold ass shower, and then off to ENF, and then with the boys. Like it's a week later, 2 months, reality strikes. You ain't going nowhere for a long time.
Yeah.
But the hard part to imagine is he's innocent.
Yeah, you didn't do nothing.
Like I told
this.
him, we're guilty. We take accountability and we're responsible for that. But I couldn't even imagine like.
Yeah, bro. You know, it's the ride. You know, same the initial investigator, the Deputy Gorin, who became like a commander, like high-ranking sheriff in the sheriff's department. But I remember he was the guy who drove me. It was just you know, he was driving, I was in the back seat, and we're on from Bullis. We hit Imperial, and we're heading towards that side of the riverbed that I talked about. And I remember we were like on some traffic, some like, you know, standard, you know, morning traffic. And there was a family to the left of us, and they were like in like an old van. And you see everybody, like, there was like the mom, the dad, the older daughter, the kids, and they were all looking at me. And I remember looking over at them like, hey, kind of like, you know, I couldn't wave, but I was just like smiling, you know, like whatever. And I remember the mom and dad were like, just staring at me. And then the kids were just like, they weren't really sure what to do with me, but the mom and dad were like really just like staring at me. And I remember feeling like really bizarre, like, you know, these people who I don't even know who they are witnessing this moment. Like no one else, I was by myself, dude, but there's some strangers right now who are getting a sneak preview about my this injustice, you know? And so,
all these years later, that moment is imprinted in your head, in your memory. That's a trip.
you know, because it's bizarre. I've never really thought about it before, but it's like
you saw it at the beginning of this trauma, like of what's being done to me.
like somebody observed this happening. Like they didn't know anything about me or the circumstances, but they saw me. It was like the last time I was seen on the outside, almost, you know.
Wow.
They had an effect on you. You had an effect on them.
Right.
You had an effect on them because their kids are in the car and they're looking at you, and it's like, I'm looking at my kid. What is my kid doing in the car? And then the look of the kids looking at you in a state of confusion only shows the parallels.
Yeah.
The kid looking back at them in a state of confusion. I don't know what the hell is going on. They don't know what's going on, but the parents know something right about this. You know what I'm saying? They say, that don't look right. Why is that kid in that car?
Yeah.
It doesn't look right. Where's his parents? They naturally want to know. It's only what, you know, people, humans, a parent.
It's interesting, yeah. And thanks for asking me that question, guys, because it was the last family to observe me as a free kid. I think what happens after that, and what happened in my story, was that the cops start saying stuff like, "Get a good look," and, you know, like,
Those
"You'll never be
comments.
out," you know, like all that stuff about, you know, enjoy it while you can before we get there, and so all that noise, and so.
So it's sinking in at this point. Like, damn.
I think it sunk in the moment I opened the door, you know, and let them in, you know.
Yeah.
But I think I was still, I'm very naive, you know, like, because I should be, because I'm 16 years old. I got 16 birthdays under my belt, but am I rocking like a 12-year-old mentality? More than likely.
Sure.
13, maybe max. Emotionally, whatever number, you know, pick a number, right?
Definitely in no kind of like emotional state to prepare yourself for a murder trial that you had absolutely nothing to do with.
Exactly.
And then that whole at the time, I guess I would consider myself like a hardened gang member at the time that I was arrested, and that still weighs heavy, you know, on a person. Nobody's prepared for that age, no matter what kind of mask you're wearing or bravado you're promoting or whatever.
Yeah.
And even with just looking at you from my observation, it never heals.
Right.
Because no matter what we do, every time we get in here, we tell our story, or we go on a podcast, or people ask us stuff about prison or anything, or just you see a kid going through something, it rips that scab off.
Oh, yeah.
It never calluses for us. That shit never calluses. It's there. It's permanently there. And it's like the only people that can understand is the person that's experienced it. Those are the only people that will ever understand the mind state of a person that's sat in there, that had those shackles put on. For you, I myself, when I got arrested, all right, I was a prisoner. But for you, You were captured and they put you in bondage. They enslaved you. I mean, we were enslaved to a certain extent, but you were just being a person, living your life, and they came around and they're like, all right, you know, as my uncle would say, the paddy wagon. And they said, all right, him, scapegoat, put him in the back, and let's go. Like, what, that's...
Yeah,
What-
yeah.
what-
You know, I wish. Yeah, no, I mean it's a reality, right? Like you're trying to go through the motions, and you know, I think what I did, because it's what I was supposed to do, is that you default into youth mode, and you're looking at the adults like, okay, well, where do I go now? oh, okay, I'm here now. Okay, you over here, shower, get some clothes. You have a little interview by a probation officer, and then you go over to A and B, and then you go. So you're there is no agency. It's over. Like you're just now following instructions, and then that moves into the court space, and the lawyer shows up, and so you're just kind of backseat, going through the motions, right?
Yeah. Wow.
You know, so I was really banking on. Whatever they had, whatever legal case they had against me, that the first time I saw a judge, it would be cleared up. You know, not insufficient evidence, or someone says, "Oh, we made a mistake," or something. I mean, it was very fantasy thinking, right? But that's all I had, because I'm thinking from my end, you know, I think about. I'll say it this way, and then I'll keep pushing the story. When you know you didn't do something you've been accused of, I think I'm not sure if that, as a youth, your sister, someone said something that was like almost like, I didn't do that. You know, it's just this weird, like very powerless position.
That's a good word, powerless. Yeah,
And when the adults are narrating that, and you're thinking like, where's a complaint box for this? There is, like, you're thinking the court will figure it out. Like, this is where it gets aired and you hear evidence or whatever. But I was just thinking they're just going to realize that they just got the wrong guy. I was just thinking you got the wrong guy. That's all. How the machine got to that point.
The machine
was I was just like, you know, just, I don't know. I just know it wasn't me. That's all. That's on my end. That's all I got.
So you go through your arraignment. Did they try you as an adult?
I was. So I went through. It's interesting. I have a good friend now, Pete Espinoza, who was a juvenile judge at the time. So I went to the local LP court, and I was bound over to Superior Court.
Okay.
And you know, tried as an adult, went through the motions there, and then I was now facing adult court. So I went from LP to Central Juvenile Hall, where they had the
high-risk
offenders.
What were you, KL or MNN?
MNN.
Okay.
So what was interesting was that the initial charge, that shooting in Compton, the other crime I didn't do, that one was my arresting case. So I was officially in jail for the shooting in Compton, and then the other one was like, you got to keep flipping some pages to get to that. You know,
Okay.
Commitment offense.
Exactly.
That was what they committed you for, and then the murder is what they bound you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever they looked at, that was the first thing that came up. This,
Okay.
Whatever it was, whatever number it was, but it was like a shooting. And so now I'm in Central Juvenile Hall, you know, and
Everybody hates Central. Everybody hates Central.
Yeah, I was in KL too, so I remember MNN upstairs. Man.
Central was so trippy, man. Like, I don't know, it was like this cruel joke, but the day I went to court, where I thought again, like, okay, there's a judge, and there'll be somebody that's gonna, like, you know, realize they got the wrong guy. There happened to be a kid with the same first and last name as me, who was going to court that day. And I remember they called for, I thought it was me, but they were calling for him. And he was a little skinny little kid, man, like 10 years old or something, like super short, skinny kid. And I thought it was kind of bizarre. Like, there's two of us, two Franky Carillos right here, right now, right?
Yeah, it's here.
And apparently he was released. Like, they said, okay, you go back to your mom, whatever, to your family. And they came to my door, dude, that night. Because they thought I was the guy who was supposed to be released.
Dang, is it?
It's just like
Ain't that like
Just
a
stab, like come on. Yeah,
exactly.
That's just for real.
fucked up, dude.
You
That's
really
just
like right now that hurt. Like, bro, you
Yeah.
just came to my door. Just why you playing with me like this,
Exactly.
man? What the hell? Like,
Finally, they figured
Like,
it out.
oh,
yeah,
maybe
that hurt my spine right there. Like, you bad. That's
You know what I thought was that what I heard in court, like being
would've
bailed
cried.
over, I thought that like I misunderstood that because I wasn't aware like all the all the language in court.
Yeah, of course
I said,
not.
oh, maybe they meant like release, because now they're talking about like, okay, get your little whatever Ziploc, whatever I had. I don't know what I had, right?
Yeah.
Or nothing. Just
Yeah.
you're out. And then like I'm walking, I don't know where I was walking to, and they said, no, that's the wrong one. I'm like, damn.
they opened the door. See, when you open the door, that's a whole nother level of excitement. Like the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm right there. I mean, I'm just playing with you, bro. Go ahead, go back home there, man.
You grab your Bible, your toothbrush, and you're like
Yeah.
Sports Illustrated. You're like you're gone. Like
So like talk about like here's this little boy with this fantasy of like they'll realize they made a mistake, and then that kind of plays itself out, and then they say no, actually it's not you, that was the other guy, like oh shit so
yeah, that's terrible.
so the next
That's
morning,
terrible.
dude, I'm on my way to Central, and so show up there to Eminem,
Wow.
And you go to your arraignment, and you're in adult court.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
is the evidence still this one person that like?
Yeah. So the story that, the case against Franky Carillo at the time was a lone eyewitness who said that he saw me shoot the gun out of this car. And apparently back then, and even now, you're not supposed to arrest anybody based on just a lone eyewitness. You need corroborating information. You need a gun. You need another witness. You need something, right? Someone,
That
the
witness has
girlfriend
to
saying,
be,
yeah, it was him. I don't know, something, right?
Yeah.
And so we show up to the prelim, and he walks in. Scotty Turner walks in with his big bomber Raiders, long coat. I don't know. I guess it was cold out.
And you don't know him at all.
I've never seen him before in my life.
Okay.
And he walks in and he starts testifying about what his script, right? He starts saying, yeah, I was there when Donald Sharpie was shot, and that's the guy who did it. And apparently the DA at the time who was prosecuting me, Mariana Escalante, she told the detective, one of these cowboy guys, like, hey, like this is not going to work. This might work for right now, but if this isn't going to trial or whatever, we need more. And so the story at the core of this is Donald Sharpie has been murdered, but there was actually 6 witnesses at the scene of the crime, but they're only using one. So they went back and interviewed all the other 5 boys. And then they all apparently said, yeah, yep, Franky did it 6 months after the crime. So we're now talking about 6 months after the incident. The boys are being shown photographs for the first time.
6-pack, right? They
Six
brought
pack,
the
yeah.
six-pack.
So they're showing a photographic lineup 6-pack. And as much as they kind of like, delay it or say, oh, maybe it was 1 or 5 or 3 or 2, they all at the end said it was 1. Everyone said it was 1, which was my photograph. And so that's a whole other conversation about coercion, which we later.
Yeah. Are you sure it was him? Yeah, when they get into doing all that and
Exactly.
wow.
So now at this point now they've strengthened their case by 6. So now they got, instead of 1, they have 6 now eyewitness testimonies who are will come to court and testify that they saw me shoot the gun. So
even with the probable cause, he has no cause to do this or any of that. There was they just ruled that out. Like,
I don't think they were even worried about that part. They were just like, hey, we
got us one, basically.
Did the district attorney like try to use the gang component, like paint the whole?
At the time there wasn't no gang injunctions or gang maybe there was allegations, but they weren't used as like enhancements.
Right.
But at the time, the local Crip gang, the neighborhood NHC, neighborhood Crips in Lynwood, were feuding with the local Latino gang or Mexican gang, Young Crowd.
Okay.
And Atlantic Boulevard sort of separated these two turfs. And there was a time where they were really close, or at least they were peaceful, friendly. And then they came into this feud.
Okay.
I believe my study in 94 and 95, Operation Safe Streets, is when they actually came with the real gang push. And that's when they came in with the gang enhancements. But on top of that, if I'm not mistaken, Clinton, they really were cracking down. And that's when, if you're now a gang member, you are now a terrorist, came into it. So they changed it and just were just hard on it. So it ain't like you pass that up. It's like, shit, you just...
Right.
It doesn't make any sense.
And was this the time when that super predator term was being coined?
I think it was. Maybe it might have predated this, but it was definitely used like sort of in between the 94 and the crime bill, youth crime bill, I think is what it's called. And when I was arrested, but it was definitely, again, it was maybe the peak of just like heavy crime murders in LA. And it probably got higher and higher as time went on, but it was definitely, I'm sure the DA and law enforcement are like super busy with like solving crimes or whatever.
For sure, especially in that area. Did you have a lawyer or
I had a state appointed attorney.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't have a private attorney.
And your defense was like, I wasn't there. This is my alibi. This is where I was.
My defense was I went to school that day. Gave him the bus route. I took 2 or 3 buses to get there and 3 back.
The life of a 16-year-old.
Came home and because so for the last 7 years of my life, it was just men. It was my father, myself, and my little brother. And so, you did your own laundry. You had to clean the bathroom. You mopped. You prepped dinner. Like you're just doing stuff that were like not gender appropriate for boys. Like typically, it is what it is. But at the time, maybe even now, that was maybe more for like the mom or the sisters to do that, like housework, whatever, right?
Yeah,
but in my case, that's just what we knew as a norm. And so when I said, when I came home from school, maybe I had to fold clothes, whatever chores were like I had to do, I just did them. And then the day, proceeded, and I just ran it down, right? Just what happened. And if it was going to be an alibi, it was like the weakest one ever, right? There was like no one came over. There was
you weren't at the Dodger game and
none of that. Exactly. None of that.
Okay.
What is the state of your mental health at this moment?
So we're now what? We're right now?
No. You're looking damn good to me, man. At that the state of your mental health going through court, you probably had to be 3 court days, 4 court days in by now.
Yeah.
And what is this? You're a child. And I don't know if people have been to Central.
Right.
Central, especially back there in that box, that solitary confinement they got back there where it's hot. It's just you. It's grates on the doors. People don't know what it's like being dudes can't use the bathroom, so they're pissing out the window. They're pooping over here. The ants, the bugs, the roaches, the fights, the food. What is your state of mental health in those moments? And on top of that, I'm going to court for murder.
I got to say, and I've never said this before, but I will say that Central was really, it kind of mirrored Lynwood in many ways. So there were some guys who I grew up with who were there in that same unit, or at least in those 2 units, M&N and KL. And I remember my jam, I was never a professional fighter, but I was part of the local boxing club, and street fighting was my thing. And I'm like, I'm in my environment. Like this is, somebody wants to run up, that environment didn't scare me, because that's what people did. They're just, if they're going to get into any altercation, it was just fist fighting.
Yeah, so that kind of goes back to
Yeah.
school to prison pipeline.
It
you
does,
have no problem acclimating to your circumstances or where you're at, because it's where you've been.
Exactly.
It's a horrible thing for a child to have to go through.
Yeah,
I never,
that's natural to you.
Yeah,
but I never connected the dots, and I really appreciate you guys doing that, because there was some familiarity to this space here. It did have a school dynamic. These probation officers were like counselors. At the time, they were wearing, the regular jeans or whatever shirts they were wearing. So they were just free people, and the environment was a lot different, right, than it is today. But I remember acclimating fairly easy, because it was, I think the probation staff sort of welcomed a more of a, an example would be is that when I was there in M&N on the M side, every night we would come out with a robe, a little robe, that was like a dress, like a little like a
Yeah, the one you slipped over your head.
you slipped over
Yeah.
like it's like from like an orphanage or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like a moo-moo?
Yeah, no, it is. That's crazy.
You wore like a little like a dress, dude. That
Yeah.
was down to like past your knees. You
Yeah,
know?
all the way like your
McLaren Hall
ankles.
type
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah,
all the way to
dude.
your ankles
you
too. Yeah.
You were rocking, you know, all the little gang dudes, whatever, was rocking the little dress. Dude.
Trying to be hard with a moo. It's not easy. The struggles are. Yeah, that's yeah. You took me back. That's crazy.
Bouquet.
I used to have a brown one. Like I thought I was, I looked like a monk or
You
something.
know,
like,
my that's so funny. My 9-year-old recently asked me if I ever wore a dress. And I'm like, what are you talking about, right? So now I had to go back and say,
yeah, technically, yeah.
Actually, I did.
There was that one time.
I have had a safety smock on before. You get the
But what
technical
happened,
words.
but what happened is that everyone would get into the like PJs, right? It's
Yeah.
PJ time.
Yeah.
And you come out to the day room and they literally gave you milk and cookies every night.
Yeah, they did the same thing with us. And that's-
And it was, I don't know if the TV was on or maybe some music was playing, but like that's what was kind of happening, right? And it seemed, it's boys being boys, and there's a routine. So you jump into the routine and you're busy and you're going to school and you're writing letters and,
Now it just seems weird as hell. To me, it's just,
Yeah.
milk and
Yeah.
cookies. Like, just,
right.
In your dress.
come over here and get these milk and cookies, fellas. Like we just,
But it was still it was a dangerous environment. Like there's still like
it's just growing up, being institutionalized and getting there. I acclimated the same way, probably even better than you did, because I was used to locked doors. In group homes, they put the locks on the refrigerator. There was no food after 6. They locked the fridge. You couldn't get any type of food. So seeing that, and then it's just the dating. It goes to the date. None of that stuff was changed. So from the 90s all the way to 2000, when did you go in?
94.
So 90s, 2005, nothing has changed. They still get the milk and cookies. They still, basically dress the same. They still do the same thing. And it goes to show, like, this shit ain't working. That really just goes to show it's not working. What's going on here? Like, are we changing the psyche of these children? Are we helping them change the psyche of the children? Or are we further feeding them into the machine?
Yeah.
So, that's damn. It hurts me just hearing that. Like, damn, like, hold on, because you don't really see the time pass. Like, hold on. Are we good, crew? All right. I don't want to get in trouble for that. But it just goes to show the time. Like, wow, like it's never really got away from these. I don't even know who thought of that. I would like to ask. A lot of times I want to ask Bob Barker, because I seen Bob Barker on everything. Bob Barker shoes, Bob Barker beds, Bob Barker toothbrush. I didn't really. So that's and it. There's no way for people to recognize the change if you have people who've never been in that process or gone through it. Like me and Brian, we've been telling it. I talked to Ray. I'll call Ray about 7, 9 o'clock at night. And I'm going a straight rant.
Yeah.
I will go absolutely bananas. This. I don't know how this got this. How they expect to do this if they don't have these people here? And it's like you're emotionally involved because this is life.
Yep.
This is life. You're seeing children. We're talking about either it's adults or kids, women. No matter what it is, it's still life, and you seen it. So it affects you differently. And they're like, oh, you get too emotionally attached. No, you're just not emotionally attached enough to this. Because it's all fun and games until it's your kid, your husband, your wife. It's all fun and games until we have to personalize something in the aspect of it's directly affecting me. All right, that's little Bobby and them down the street. That's their kid. I told y'all don't be like him. F him, but it ain't my kid. But when it's your kid and you go in there and you see your neighbors from across the street visiting their kid, now we become tight. Just like at a funeral. Only time you see people come together nowadays and a show of solidarity is when somebody dies and that emotion comes out. If it's a party of people flossing and showing how much stuff they got, it's lower levels. But when it's a joined and, struggle or pain, we can all relate to that. That's
Yeah, you're definitely right.
So they need people like you. They have to have that. Without people like you, it's not going to work. It's going to backfire. It's going to blow up.
You know what? I will say we're going before and after stuff, but going back to the before stuff, I've always been a very optimistic kid, even under these circumstances. And I can remember, because it's just what was happening back then, that, I can remember probation officers, maybe they even had a different name, but, the people who were there, the adults basically, who were like instilling values and like giving you advice and just being examples about, adulthood or whatever, right? And I remember a lot of times as life went on afterwards, that I would reflect back on those moments in juvenile hall where these folks did what they were supposed to do. They were working for the probation department. They were adults interacting with youth, and they were just, doing what adults did, which is lead by example. In most cases, drop some gems, say something. I remember when I heard that my girlfriend had given birth, and was on the phone, and I heard that was an M&N, yeah.
While you're at Central,
I'm at Central when it was a April Fool's Day, so I thought they were messing with me, but she actually had the baby, damn. And so I'm crying, dude, and they're watching me cry, and so I went to my room, or I asked if I can go down to my room, and so I did, and Michael Bennett, the probation officer, came down, and he was a dad, and he just sat there with me for like an hour, just being in the moment, right, and just talking about like, you'll be out, and don't worry, and I know it's hard now, just things that I was something you would expect from an adult to do at that moment. So I'm grateful that they did that, and so anyway, but yeah, man, it's the case obviously unfolded, which is at the core of this conveyor belt here back to court, and we eventually went to a jury trial. The first jury trial hung, 7 not guilty, 5 guilty. I was still in juvenile hall when that happened.
But you're going to adult court.
Compton Court,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Compton Court, yeah. And so I think I was still operating on my initial understanding, like, again, they'll figure it out. There's more witnesses, but they'll figure it out.
Was that at the time that Compton was Compton got the nickname, hang 'em high Compton? Nobody wanted to go to Pomona, Compton, Norwalk, Long Beach, or Torrance Court.
Yeah, back then I think it was Pomona and Norwalk for sure, but I think Compton, they weren't working it that way yet.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you that during my first trial, what I thought was, okay, here's the moment that I've been looking for. The star witness is testifying, Scotty. He's younger than me, so he's on the stand. And they say, my attorney, to his credit, says, so like, tell us again how you know Franky was the guy who shot the gun. And he said, well, like, I know it's Franky because we're in the same class. Like, oh, like, tell me more. Like, yeah, Franky and I go to Lynwood High School, and he's in my geometry class or whatever he said. So you can see me kind of perking up, like, already thinking, oh my God, dude, like, the case is over, right? Here's a star witness placing me in a school I've never attended.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he's like, well, what else do you know about Franky? Where else have you, give me more about how you're sure it was him. He says, well, I know it's him because one day after school, my homeboy Peanut fucked him up, like flat out. And people are chuckling, the jury's like laughing, right? And then my attorney says, like, do you mean, he got in the fight? He's trying to help him. And he's like, yeah, they were fighting. And the fight got so bad that, after school, a bunch of people were watching. I was one of the people watching Franky get beat up. And it got to the point where Peanut tore Franky's shirt off, and it exposed a big tattoo on his chest. He had a big YC on his chest. And so the guy who shot Donald Sarpy is the guy who goes to Lynwood High School, who's in my class, and who Peanut beat up. It's all the same guy.
And who has the tattoo on his chest.
Right? So I'm basically jumping on my seat at this point. I'm thinking, oh my God, man, just someone, it's going to be embarrassing. I might be a little, shy and, I might want to fight it. But will please somebody ask me to take my shirt off to expose my bare little pigeon chest with no tattoos?
Yeah, my bird's nest chest. Yeah.
Rip that thing open right there in the courtroom. Hold me in contempt.
But no one did. My attorney missed the moment, man.
Oh, dump truck.
So you never showed your chest?
I never showed my chest.
Dump truck.
So, he came back and I said, hey, like never, we weren't talking, so he didn't know what the hell to do next. I never went to Lynwood High School, don't have any tattoos, don't know peanut. This whole story about geometry, I'm still rocking like multiplications, dude. I'm behind in school, I'm not there yet. And that's as far as it went. So regardless of all that, it was a hung jury. And so of course the DA has a chance to, try me again. And so she does. And so now I'm facing my second jury trial.
And obviously it ended with a conviction.
Well, what was trippy about the first and second trial, and I'm going back to Central Juvenile Hall, is that I was about to turn 18 years old. So I'm in Central, I'm 17, first trial wraps up, hung jury. So that was like a waiting period, what's going to happen next. So I'm in Central, they're filming American Me at the time, and go to the premiere. A lot of stuff is happening. A lot of movements are happening within the juvenile hall. And one of the things that wasn't supposed to happen on top of everything else happens, which is that I've always had sinus problems as a kid. Mm-hmm. And so I would see the local doctor. You go to Unit R, and then you go back to the back, and they see you, and you go back to your unit. And so one day I go to Unit R because I had an appointment. Mm-hmm. And I get there, and there's a bunch of camp guys who are there, waiting. They just arrived from camps, or they're in transition. So they said, you go in and you check in with the desk, big, tall, kind of wooden desk, and you say they have the book is out, and they know they're waiting for you. Yeah. You tell them what unit you're in, what your name is, and why you're there. So I did. Eminem, Carillo, I'm here to see the doctor. So the guy says, Mr. Jones says, okay, have a seat.
Jones?
He says, no talking. Like, cool. I've been there. It's almost 2 years there, so I get it. So I sit down, and TV's on, and everyone's listening to the TV, and no one's talking. And I see the dude come out of his chair, out of this kind of tall desk, and he comes around, and in that big day room, there's lockers in the back. So I'm thinking, he just, he's kind of coming my way. I'm thinking, be respectful, move my feet back up, from they were kind of stretched out. And when I did, he just came right at me. And he must have been about, Mr. Jones must have been about easy 300, big black man. And he just with both arms just dove at me, neck shot, and just started choking me out. And at this point, he's kind of big guys choking me, and then all his weight is pinned. So they had these sort of bizarre benches, a 2-part bench. So I was too small for the bench, but my head was caught on the back of it. So pin in the back, dude's choking me out. And I think for the first few seconds, I tried to push him off or kick or something, but that was it. I think I passed out. And so he must have stopped, probably thought I was dead, or, I passed out. So he probably panicked. And I woke up.
What the hell was that about?
I don't know, dude.
It was a staff member too?
Yeah.
Crazy. I know a big, giant ass, crazy Mr. Jones that worked in there. And he had a thing. He had no problem putting his hands on kids at all.
That was par for the course back then, though. They were rough back then.
Yeah, bro. But from what I heard,
that was extreme.
It was extreme. And what I heard was that I think he knew the man who was murdered. So it was some vigilante stuff, right? Because it was just an
emotional, you could, yeah.
There was 50 of us in that day room. Why go out of the way if you just felt I want to just attack somebody right now? Why me? So but what happened afterwards that, I couldn't even breathe, man. My neck was all fucked up, right? And there was a movement. They said, okay, anybody from MNN, KNL, go, Yeah. And so I'm trying to get back. The doctor's appointment is over. I'm out of here, right? So they put me in line, and they're getting me back to the unit. And when I get there, they would strip you down. So you walk in, and they put you along the wall, and they take your shoes off and maybe pat you down, whatever. And they're like, what happened? And I'm like, I couldn't even talk, dude. And they're like, did you get in a fight? The staff who knew me in the unit. And so they just by default just called Unit R, and guess who answers? Mr. Jones. hey, you know, I assume this is what happened in the office. Hey, Carillo's back in the unit.
Yeah.
He's all
happened?
beat up, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
was he in a fight? And so, cat's out the bag, dude. I don't know if he said what he did, but you know, some administrators came and got me and took me back to the scene of the crime, to Unit R, and they handed me a dictionary, a pencil, and like a writing tablet. And they put me in a small little closet room with a desk, and they said, okay, write what happened. You know, tell us, like, you know, write basically a statement. And so I did. I wrote whatever I wrote, you know, but I'm telling you, I'm in the day room going to the doctor, and then out of nowhere, this dude, you know, Mr. Jones attacks me. And it's for me, it's like another one of these moments, like what the hell's going on, man? Like, I'm already here.
Just one thing on top of the next.
It was
Like,
just like,
I never knew this, like that part. Like,
at what point do you switch? Does that switch flip and you're like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Because me, it only takes so much poking me before I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna get you before you get me now. I'm not gonna play any games, none of this type of stuff. And that would have broke some dudes in the manner of, all right, now I have to.
Yeah, but
I'm violent now.
Wow, you know, actually, what happened after that, man, was I'm even surprised at myself at what went down. So, I'm now going to the doctor, not for my sinuses, but for my damn throat, you know, for the attack.
Crush some stuff.
Yeah, dude, you know, so I get back to Unit R, and it's obviously a different staff member now taking my name down, and they eventually call me to go back down this hallway to see the doctor. And I get there, and there's like another little waiting room, and I'm in there, and I look across the way, and there he is, Mr. Jones. He's sitting down at like a teacher's desk, and then there's like a little chair next to that desk, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him. And I don't know what you guys would have done, but what I did was I kind of flagged him. I'm like, hey, you see me? And he's like, yeah, I see you. And I said, like, I pointed at the little table, the little chair that was next to that table, and I said, like, you know, can I go there, basically? He's like, yeah, come here, you know. And so I went, and I sat down next to him, and the dude just starts apologizing. I'm sorry, and I whatever voice box was still sort of remained at the time before it healed, I just said, like, you know what, I forgive you, you know, like, like, I accept your apology, basically.
Way better man than me.
dang,
Dude, it was just
I'd have been on his ass like flies on shit.
Wow.
You know, like,
did he ever explain why, or?
You know, I don't think I've shared that story publicly, man, because, you know, it's a tragedy, and I focus on what he did to me, but what I did in return was, like, forgive the dude for what happened.
That's huge. Yeah, that's huge.
And he was crying. We were both crying, obviously, right? It doesn't. Stop.
Got it right.
It doesn't take away.
Don't toss it, no spill.
It doesn't take away what happened.
Oh, yeah,
right?
he old school. He pulled out the hanky.
It doesn't take away what happened, but I think that.
Yeah, what a moment, though, man.
That's another. It's like a question I've been wanting to ask, because I feel like I can't forgive the dude that pointed you out and said that you did. I can't forgive him. And if you could forgive him, once again, that makes you better. I can't forgive. Something in my heart right now is like, bruh, I'm not finna forgive. Man, this dude done went in there. How you, like, bro?
Yeah, I've been having a whole conversation
Like,
with
have
my
you talked
family
to this
for the last
dude?
couple of days about like,
has this dude even reached? Has he even apologized?
Yeah. But you know what's trippy, man, is that, and you know, the reason why, you know, I apologize for tearing up, man, but it's a reminder about you know, up to this point of the story, you know, as I'm hearing myself, you know, tell my own story, I'm reminding myself that I'm expecting everybody else to do the right thing.
Yeah.
The judge, the witnesses, the lawyers, probation staff, and each and every time I got to be the one to step it up. I got to put myself to bed and say, it's going to be okay. I got to be the one to create the space where this man can semi-apologize and that we can have that moment.
As the child.
He didn't come to my room and say, hey, like, Can I talk to Carillo?
Yeah,
Hey,
you
Carillo.
initiated that where you pointed.
Right. Yeah, he wasn't looking for me. Like, I triggered that. That was just a response. And maybe I might have said it before he did, but I'm just, and as I can recall, that's just what happened. For a kid, young man, youth, whatever, ward, to be looking outwardly and expecting people to do the right thing, and to have to self-soothe yourself, I guess. You know, it's like, it's going to work out. It's going to be okay. Even when it gets worse and worse, it's going to be okay. Like, it's just it's a terrible situation, you know? And anyway.
That's that's see, you look at it as a terrible situation, but the situation shows this. It shows the innocence of a child.
Like the purity of
despite all that, it's the rose that grew from the concrete.
Mm-hmm.
It's the innocence of a child. You can look at all the people. Like, a few years ago, I forgave Judge Clay. I forgave Judge Clay, and I was like, man, you know what? You know, the things that happened, I still don't forgive the CO that got on the stand and said, oh, he did this and almost tried to get me life. I haven't done that yet because I'm not at that point in my life. But the innocence of a youth, of a child, compared to the corruptness of the adults around us. You don't know how many times a judge done banged that gavel, how many times a DA has done this, how many times a public defender has done this. We don't know what they have going on with the caseloads, etc. But at the same time, they have to be reminded, it's still good people out here.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep going and going, oh, you do this, or we do the tit for tat and all this. When you get into the politics of it, not the politics, the politics of it. You know what I'm saying? You owe me this, you do that. Nah. There's a kid right there still showing y'all light. You know what I'm saying? And that's the blessing that you gave to him.
Yeah.
And then it came back to you tenfold.
Yeah, man. It's appreciate you, man, for saying that, man. And adding that to my story, because I think it's, some of it's like self-preservation or just trying to defend my own, that boy who's still in me.
Right.
But, I turned 18, so
County jail.
And what was cool, man, was that, the weekend before I turned 18, my dad would come visit me, man.
Oh, Pops was coming to see you?
My pops came to see me, man, for my birthday, and that weekend, all the fellas were banging, man. Everybody who's there was just banging. So I'm on the field side on the M side, room 1, first door, and everybody from maybe the KL2, were just banging hard, dude. Because and I look, and it was visiting day, and my dad is carrying this big pink box. Birthday present,
right.
birthday cake.
Yeah, I thought it was a cake.
You give a piece to everybody in the unit.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So everyone's pumped up because of the cake. They don't give a shit about my birthday.
It's their birthday. Let them tell it.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
But like, hey, it comes your dad. Everyone knows he visits, right? So, here comes this big ass cake, right? So, so Pop celebrates. Just the cake is there, and he gets a cake, and later on, everybody else gets a cake, but a slice of it. Soon after, I'm gone. They call me day of March 6, 1992. They send me over to, they call and say, hey, they need them in Unit R. And I remember the staff members who were in that unit that I had been for a number of, almost 2 years, I suppose. There was a guy named Porter. No, not Porter. I forget his name. But the dude started crying, man. He was a light-skinned African-American man, and he had some cash in his pocket. He's like, hey, man, you'll need this. He gave me some money.
As you were going to the county?
We're still in the unit.
Oh, okay.
We're still in the unit. And he's like, it scared me more that he started crying.
Like, yeah, where the hell am I going?
Where am I going?
Yeah, okay.
I wanted the same thing.
Damn.
That's leaving the YA, going around the corner from YTS. I was like, the hell, what you crying for? Like, you don't know what you crying for. Like, I'm waiting to go over here, shit. But it's just, wow.
Because that's from juvenile
They're
facility.
watching you,
Yeah, into the county jail. It's like you're losing
And
somebody.
you hear the chain. You know when the sheriffs are coming.
Yeah.
You hear them chains coming through that hallway. Yeah,
All
they hear
those chains
clink,
drop.
clink, 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 clink. You hear the sheriff's coming. Oh, you hear the sheriff's at the back door. And then you're like, here comes the awakening.
Come,
Here it
they
comes.
come, you know. And so I get to Unit R, or whatever it is. Yeah, Unit R, I suppose. And me and some other guy, I guess it was his birthday too. So we're heading over to
birthday.
that's our birthday present, right? You know, bus ride over to the county jail. And so, you know, you get there in this hustle bustle. It's train station. It's a bunch of everyone's dumping, you know, bodies right there, and I'm one of the ones dumped there, and you going through the interview and eventually the shower and the picture and everything else, you know, and so pretty cool birthday present, man. For
Getting lost in the sauce. Basically, you getting.
And that's especially during that time, like you went through 9500 and all that, like
yeah,
that was an era right there. I
You
remember. Did you go in your jumpsuit like from juvenile hall? Because I remember being in central booking in my KO jumpsuit. Everybody's like, "The hell, you coming from?" You know?
Did I have? Yeah, it was orange. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yep. So I was wearing orange, and so they saw that, you know, there's these two young boys, and then, you know, everyone else is wearing their substation clothes, so whatever they're arrested with, they're still doing that, you know.
Yeah.
And you can keep your shoes at the time, so whatever shoes I had, that's what I wore in.
Thank God it wasn't the dress.
Right, exactly.
Things can go terribly wrong.
So did the trial started shortly after?
So
All right.
what started
The second trial.
Yeah. So what happened after I got there was the city was up in flames. So the Rodney King riots happened.
Oh.
So soon after my transfer to the men's central jail, you know, I shuffled around and eventually was like in Wayside or somewhere, but riots kicked off. So, you know, verdict came back, not guilty, and then here we go, right? So, you know, white guys who were in the unit were being rushed and, you know, attacked.
Oh, it happened inside there too.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a man I remember in Wayside an older white dude, like a biker guy, who they had wrapped in like a sheet, like they mummified him, and they were trying to light him on fire. And it was just like,
not to laugh, but the way he said wrapped up in a sheet, and I immediately like a mummy. Hold on, like
Damn.
yeah, dude. No, it was.
you have to really think some shit out to do some shit, and then you got nothing but time in the county jail. Like
They I don't know if they caught him in bed and they just like wrapped him up. Like they just said like they had strips of like sheet. And they just said
they thought that shit
somebody
out.
get the sheets and like let's just wrap this dude up. And they mummified him. They were trying to. I don't know if they lit him on fire or what happened, but I mean, obviously they got.
they got the fire.
I think they got him before they lit him on fire or something, you know. But after he probably been kicked, beat down, you know, a bunch of times. But whatever was happening outside was going down on the inside too, you know. And so
I never knew that.
Flash like that. Yeah.
Makes sense though.
yeah, you know. And so so then obviously the city's shut down, no courts, no nothing, right? So soon after my court hearing started, and you know, might have been a few months after the riots had settled. But it was my first day to pick a jury. And so Donald Sarpy was a black man, and here I am as a young Latino boy.
Yeah.
So talk about the jury pool.
Yeah.
So the jury
Wow.
pool is LA County folks from whatever part of the county. And, you know, what you get on day one before they do anything else is they give you a little breakdown about what the case is about. So Judge Day says, you know, welcome everyone, good morning, thank you for being here, you know, that whole thing. And by the way, let me tell you about this case. If you're lucky enough to be selected, here we go, right? And so they give them the sneak preview. And then you'll see some people say, oh, you know, I actually know the victim or work or whatever. So they start doing that, right? But, you know, the climate, the stage was not working for a young Mexican American boy on trial for killing a black man, no matter what was going on, you know.
Right.
And so then the jury proceeded, and you know, the DA really had a chance to like really hone the testimony of these boys. You know, now it's rehearsals over with now.
Yeah, they're like trained professionals at this point.
Don't talk about the school.
Yeah.
No one mentioned anything about Lynwood High School.
Not forget the geometry class.
Forget peanut.
Forget the tattoo on the chest.
Yeah.
All
Here's your
that,
time to fix it all.
Just go in there and say,
Yeah.
that's who did it, and
Yeah.
then
It
start crying or whatever, you know.
$200 for you right there for your participation.
Right.
Yeah, just say this. Yeah.
So, you know.
That's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I'm leaving a bunch of stuff out, but at the end of the day, the jury came back with the guilty verdict, you know, and so, you know, it's one of those things I remember, you know, it was the day that they got the case was the day they came back, so maybe hours later. And nobody was there. Nobody was waiting. It's too early. It might take a couple days at least to come back with the jury verdict. And so my attorney was there. And I remember he's like stroking my back, like, this doesn't look good. They came back too quick, but like, let's just see what happens, you know. And so sure enough.
Is your dad there too?
Nobody was there. Just empty courtroom, you know. And so came back with the guilty verdict, you know.
What did they find you guilty of?
They found me guilty of the murder of Donald Sarpy and attempted murder of the 6 witnesses who were witnesses / victims as well.
And the sentence was?
Sentence was 30 years, 25 years to life, plus 5 years for the gun for Donald Sarpy's death. And then I think it was 6 consecutive, not concurrent life sentences for each attempted murder.
So they came with they pulled what is, you know, legal term stacking. That's what they
Virtual
Leg,
death.
yeah,
like, yeah,
exactly.
add this, take this away, add this. Yeah. So especially with people that have like the cases where they have like 15 different charges, even if you went to appeal and got this out, we would have to convey the time for the other crimes, add those up, and now you still have the same sentence at the end of the day. So it's like smack on the ass, go, come back and try again. So they really were trying to set you. Well, they did. They set it all the way up from the beginning.
So the idea was that at the time, and this is 92, June 30th, 1992. But what was I learned later on was that if and when they ever found me suitable for that first 30-year to life sentence, the second one would kick in. And so, you know, or then the third or whatever else, right? It just became a thing. Like you had to like sort of die, come back, and you still got a life sentence.
Yeah, I remember this. And the governor at that time was who? Pete Wilson?
It was Wilson, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you let the people know out there, the next generations and all that type of people know? Can you let them know who Pete Wilson was, and you know, yeah, just a little brief moment right there.
Brian,
you
you
know,
want to
people's.
Yeah.
You want to hit that one? Hit that
Yeah,
note?
Brian.
I would just advise you to go to YouTube and type in Pete Wilson. You get all the information.
Yeah, go ahead.
He was originally from San Diego, Republican governor at the time. Maybe had 2 terms here in California, and he was a tough on crime type of governor. There was obviously no you know, early releases. There was no one going home that had a life sentence, and you know he was the guy with like Prop 187.
That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of like a lot of racist undertone legislation going on. And
Yeah.
I think the Senate, and I'm not sure if both houses, Assembly and Senate, were controlled by the Republican Party at the time. So, you know, there was a war going on. Like a lot of stuff was like heavy on. And of course, you know, the guys on the street weren't making it easy. They were, you know, kicking up a lot of dust and drugs and everything else was going on, you know. But it was, it was not a.
No, they have
when he drew that line in the sand with Prop 187, though, that kind of would like he played to that, and it kind of backfired on him. I mean, other than Schwarzenegger, wasn't that like the last Republican we've had in California at this point?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Davis was his lieutenant governor, and then he became governor.
Okay, yeah.
And I think he was like kind of purplish, you know, because he's a Democrat, but you know, and then of course we went from there. But yeah,
you know,
Arnold.
I found out about Pete Wilson.
What?
I was going medical in R&R in Old Courtroom, and if you walk out and you go towards the steps where the ambulances are, guess what they have? A statue of him. There's a statue and a memorial for. I'm like,
Wow.
You don't get that out of here like one of them Confederate statues, please. Like, him of all people. You talk about rehabilitation. You got this dude's. All right, yeah, we see what's going
Pete
on.
Wilson,
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had to give a little education on that.
So you're in R&R. What's the mind state like? What happens from there?
Yeah, you know, my R&R was SRCC, So the youth authority was open at the time, and
Norwalk?
that was a reception center.
Bloomfield.
Yeah. So I went there for I was in YA for about almost 5 years. So went to the reception center, Southern California Reception Center in Norwalk, and I was sent to DeWitt Nelson, which is in Stockton.
With an M number?
M number, yeah.
To Stockton too. Oh, that was a rocking and rolling.
Yeah. So I went to Stockton, and I'd never been anywhere past county lines. So I'm traveling the world at this point.
Yeah.
And Grey Goose, we get there, and South Side, North Side, all the dynamics of being on the inside are playing themselves out. And I was there for I was still in Lassen, which was like the receiving unit, when they came and got me, and they said, we're gonna lock you down. And so here we go again, some other drama, right? So it turns out that Scotty Turner was doing time at DeWitt Nelson when I got there.
God damn it, Scotty.
Scotty's
I'm
everywhere,
getting tired
man.
of Scotty. You know what?
Scotty's
Scotty, look,
witnessing-
Scotty, you better go sit down. You're getting a whole lot of passes in his life, Scotty. How you pop up here? You supposed to.
After all the favors you did for
Yeah,
him.
at that time, that point in time, I'd have been politicking heavy. Scotty got to go. Scotty.
So they caught it on the paperwork.
So so Scotty saw me in the chow hall.
and told on you.
So Scotty was a KP. And so you go there and you slide that like you would think about the movies, right?
Yeah.
Give me some more potatoes or whatever, that whole thing, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him, but he saw me, and then he went and told his staff, like, hey, like, protect me or whatever, right? So they keep me, so they just confined me to the unit. It was like, these were dorm settings. And so
What a coward, man.
What happened, man, was that the Norteños were like riding with the blacks, and I guess Scotty was a Crip. And it was interesting. There was a black guy, Indio from like Sanjo or Sacra or some Norteño hard stronghold, who was really very respectful, man. I really appreciated that he did that. But he said, hey, like, I need to talk to you. And, some other folks came around, and basically it was like, hey, look, there's a black guy who's like that basically on our team, who, they had heard of what had happened. And they said, hey, you want to meet up? You want to meet him at the library? We'll set it up so we can get him to the library, and then you can handle his, whatever you guys want to fight or whatever, right? So I said, no, it's okay, man. The guy it was they wouldn't have let me out the unit anyway, but that was their way of saying, like, we don't want any drama here, Like, if you want to
put it to bed right now.
Let's put it to bed. If you want to fight the guy, we'll set him up for you, basically.
This is that Turner character.
This is the Norteños saying about Turner. Yeah,
Got you.
Turner probably don't even know this. Turner probably over there.
He don't even know, dude.
He don't even know they setting up the fade. Like, look, man, you gonna do something.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, I knew on my end that the staff, I was locked down into the unit, so I wouldn't have gone to the library even if they set it up, So I would have been the guy who didn't show up, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So soon after they shipped me to YTS, so I was there for a few months, and then I get a ride to go to YTS, and so I got there.
And you say you had an M number?
M number, yeah.
Okay.
So M number, I get to YTS, and throughout all this, my life pre-arrest, kind of where I'm moving, there's like some bravado about me that I'm kind of like a couple heads ahead of the game about what's going on, and I'm hyper vigilant because that's just who I am, and I'm just making all the right connections and meeting people and whatever else. I didn't know this, but when I got to YTS, the dude was like, oh man, the staff member, when we got to Unit R, older Raza dude said, oh man, you got a nice set of hair. Back then people let their hair grow. Nobody had bald heads back then.
It was like the short comb.
Yeah,
back,
I had a full set of nice hair, and the guy was just like an older dude, was admiring my hair. We were late on the late bus. He might not have been typically assigned to R&R, so he was just kind of chopping it up with me.
Yeah,
we just drove long distance to get here and whatever else, right? Oh, right, yeah, I like your style, this and that. He says, okay, he says, there was like a curtain behind you that flipped. It's like the yellow one was, or like a gold one was like just GP. The red one was lifer, and maybe they had like a white one for like low custody or something, right? And he says, flip your thing over to the gold, for the backdrop. he didn't ask me my status, whatever. And I just did. And he took a picture of me. So I had like a standard, like good old fashioned, just GP ID.
Medium level, yeah. You just
I wasn't, because if the red one was like a stigma, like for some guys, maybe they were rocking like, oh, I want the red ID because I'm a lifer. They want to brag about that.
Yeah.
But I was just rocking just a regular ID, right? So me cutting it up with the guy sort of like set this tone, because kind of what happened for the next almost 5 years, 4 years for sure, was that this was I needed to acclimate to this new environment. Here, this is where I was going to be for a while.
And then that if like I've been to YA, and we don't run across a lot of people that have been to YA. You were in YA in the what's that, the 90s?
NTS.
Yeah, I'm talking about, you got the likes of Monster Cody.
Yep.
You got who else running through there? Joker was in there.
Yeah,
All these big dudes that are like, and you got dudes that's 18 with 20s on the hang.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
pig.
easy.
They in there throwing pig iron.
Oh, they had the weights and all that shit.
Yeah,
yeah.
YA still got weights when I was there in 2008. They never took it out because it's for kids still. But you got kids that are just ginormous.
Yeah, no, I heard.
So people were smoking,
it
it was again, like as things are developing or the stages are getting a little bit different, what was familiar for me was like I knew how to maneuver that. It was back to Lynwood,
Right.
Lynwood, whatever you called it, right? It was still that dynamic that I knew how to, move in those waters.
Did you have to, like, I always say the difference between juvenile and adult is, like, juvenile, you go there and you have to earn your respect. You have to fight and show that you're worthy, show that you're down. Whereas in adult facilities, you go in there, it's given to immediately and it's yours to squander or keep. So, like, when you went into TS, was there any, like, having to prove yourself? Did you have to,
They, I didn't know. So what happened for me was that I had sort of developed a reputation leading up to my YTS, arrival.
Okay.
Dudes I was in the county jail with were there like, oh shit, this guy's here or whatever, nothing, just other circumstances that led them to sort of hold me in high regard. I noticed that right away. So I didn't work it or take advantage of it, but I saw what was happening.
Okay.
And then you get a look at where he's at. So out of all the YAs in California, when you hit Gladiator School, that's when you big dog out of everybody.
Yeah, well, that's-
so it's
yeah.
even if you just he probably didn't even know, but once you got there, it's like it's already like.
So what happened was trippy, man. So what I realized fairly quickly was that you would get a pass. Somebody would get a hold of passes, like a move-in pass. And what would happen is that typically you got a pass and they would send you to the warehouse. And the warehouse was like your enemies were asking for you to come meet up with them.
Okay.
So someone would slide you your name B and someone slides you a pass. And you're like, God damn, man.
It's go time.
Got that list, 10 man, 15.
Flores versus, Bassett or whatever. So they 18, 38, whatever was going on, Florence, kind of the bigger groups, really any group, but like dudes were in positions of like, hey, open that door because this guy's going to, meet his maker or whatever, right? Like it's homeboys, but it's really his enemies or whatever, right? So like total setups. And so they slide me a pass, dude. And,
random, just
they slide me a pass, but and but in my case, I knew who it was. My homeboys were there, people who I knew, and they had like a feast for me. So it wasn't so then it goes into like this guy from A and B who's like this fish, whatever, is being pulled out to kind of party with his homeboys. So he's like one of the guys,
Okay.
And so it was so it's either like they're setting you up to beat you down, or you're getting some like love, and then that that kind of goes ripples. People just know.
People see that, they recognize. Okay, he's part of the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I realized that the environment was less about. I'm looking at the shanks behind you. It was less about like violence.
Yeah.
It had reached a level of perfection on psychological warfare.
Yes.
I always say that. I always say like those situations were always 90% mental and 10% like physical.
Yeah. So now you're rocking some. You're now like masters, doctoral degree level of like interacting as like a human being. You're just like, it's all like mind games.
Projecting
it's
energy.
Crazy that you shine a light on that. Like it's
that's deep right there.
It gets so deep. Like it's like when I sit down with people Like at night, he know, 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up doing shit because I've been programmed for so long that I can never let it go, but I still have those tremors of being in YA. Just, they put you on sleep restriction. Not the cops will do it another time, but they'll put you on sleep restriction so you have your neighbor right here. I have beef with this dude. That's my Wrongful. We're not even talking about the 15-man fights that they have to send you. You got to do that in the next 72 hours.
Yeah.
But they put you on sleep restriction. They'll take your clothes. They'll run around, send stuff under your door, dead rats. They do weird stuff and just to mess with you. Or go in a visiting room and you think certain rules are there and it'll be a full-blown riot in the visiting room. And it just keeps going and going and going. If you make friends with him, I've seen men sold. Sold. Grown men. Look, we don't want you no more. You make our race look bad. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here to these dudes. Hey, I want this dude. Yeah, we'll take him, but what do we need him for? Give me $10. He's yours. You know what that does to the mind state of this person now? You just got sold for $10.
And I always heard the stories too, like you drop your palm comb if it's not bristles up, and like
if you touch
I
the
went straight to
basketball,
prison.
bro, you touch the basketball and don't wash your hands, you're not allowed to touch any water faucet. You're not allowed to do any of that. There's a bucket with water, and you're like, it's real mental games. Like it's weird.
You know, I think when I got to YTS, those are more like Nellis, Paso Robles, OH Close, Preston. Those are more like the junior levels.
Well, TS
You
was
know,
the
TS was a different level, man. Like TS had some serious players, and I'll tell you that I had never been to a sort of lower level, you know, priming, you know, like Nellis and Whittier. But you see the behavior, but you saw that like those dudes who were showing up there with that mentality, like they realized that was in Nellis. This is now like a YTS. It's different here.
And then they play with
there's
weapons.
a level of maturity and like evolution.
It would still play out. I mean, things would still happen on that level, but I think it just advanced to another level. If you're able to keep up with it, you advance to another level. I remember, you know, there's trade line, you go to school, there's a boxing gym, there's gyms, there's, you know, working out, handball, day room, there's all these things, right? And kind of where you sat, determine what group you're in, and, you know, dominoes, all the standard stuff. But I think there was also this level of like cats who were there had been in it since, like they've been foster care. These kids have been in the system. These are professional at this point now. YTS,
This is one right here,
you're working some professional.
Yeah, no, I mean, grow up in it, yeah.
You're not just like, you know, they got you for, you know, whatever, stealing a magazine from a store or something. Like you've been through the ringer.
Yeah.
You've been graduated. You've graduated to this level, and you're operating at a different level.
And then they just dropped you straight off there.
Right.
yeah,
Went straight to the pros.
You know, it's and you know, for the good or bad of it, I swam with them, with the best of them, you know, and it not to in any way try to, you know, brag about it, but I just acclimated to my environment very, very easily. The environment, the psychological part, you know, I'm still like, you know, trying to make sense of why I'm even there, and there's an appeal. And
Yeah, were you like super invested in your appeal at that time? Are you still clinging to it? They're going to rectify this. Somebody's going to do it. They're going to see it.
You know, Brian, what happened, man, was that I got a letter in the mail one day, and it was the attorney who was assigned to my appeal. And he said, hey, you know, I've been assigned. I'm your guy. You know, tell me.
The way you saying it is like it's finna drop a bullshit bomb right on us.
Tell me what you think went wrong. You know, because the appeal's about not what you wish would have happened, but what went wrong that you can say, like a legal, you know.
Exactly.
Was there a law violated?
Yeah.
Don't care about new evidence. It's like, what do you got? And so, you know, I wrote him back, to the best of my ability, point out some things that I thought were merited that he can bring up.
Ineffective assistance of counsel, like all the
basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, call this number and all that kind of stuff, right? So some time went by, and you know, I'm in the middle of acclimating to this environment. Maybe 6 months later, I get they say, "Hey, Carillo, you got legal mail," and so I go to the main office, and they say, actually it wasn't even, I mean, 6 months later, 3 months later, so fairly quickly, and it was a milk bone, like dog food or something. Like it was a box, but it was dog food basically. And like, they're making fun of me, but like, who's sending you dog food or whatever? And so they opened it up, and it was my transcripts, and it was a letter from the lawyer saying, Mr. Carillo, sorry about, what happened, but basically you've been denied.
What?
Here's a cheat sheet. If you want to continue, I'm returning to you the denial. I'm sending you your transcripts, and here's a sheet about like what you should do next. And like a roadmap, basically, right?
The direct appeal, the
So
Ninth Circuit.
So you got denied at the Supreme.
I got denied at the appellate level. So
Appellate
state
level.
appellate.
Okay.
And next move would be California Supreme Court.
Okay.
And so, I'm like, okay, well, I guess it's me. I guess it's me now, right? So and I'm looking over this cheat sheet, and it said basically your next stop is the California Supreme Court. And so I borrowed someone's typewriter, manual typewriter. I got some white paper from who knows where, got a dictionary, and I was able to muster up a 1-page response or letter to the court saying, basically it was like a Mayday. I put my name in there. This is where I'm at. Wrongfully convicted. I need your help. And I felt very confident with what I had put together, and I sent it out. Some time goes by, and I get that same, hey, you got legal mail over the intercom. So I go out there, and I can see the letter on the desk. I need to sign like a log for it. And I looked at him like it looked very important because it had like a old English font, Supreme Court. It's like Justice George and all this. I'm like, wow, this is about to go down right big, now, man.
Damn.
My name is on it too, not just their name, but my name too. And so I signed for it, and they open it, and there's nothing in it. So I go back to my room and I read it, and there was 2 sheets of paper. It was the letter. So I opened it up, and it was basically, before I can get to like the words, it said denied, or it was like obviously like this is not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
And so of course, back to what I do is cry. So I'm crying, and luckily for me, and look how my brain works, man. But luckily for me, they sent me back what I had sent them, which was 1 page, just this one so-called appeal, right? This Mayday, like, man down, I need help, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at what I had sent them, and I was so disgusted with myself. I had mistyped my name. Whatever I thought I was trying to say didn't make any sense. There was nothing legal about this mini paragraph that I typed together. I had never typed before, but regardless, I could have written it with my hand. It didn't matter. And it really took me to a place that quickly of like, look, if I'm ever going to be heard or understood, I need to like go to school. Basics. I mean, at this point, I was talking about basics, communication skills. And so I did. So I started going to high school and knocked out the classes, and I started working at the main kitchen and sort of knocked that out, got my GED and all that stuff. But that moment was supposed to defeat me again and be like, you know what, this is as far as I'm going to go. But it actually motivated me to go to school. And so for the next 15 years of my life, based on someone giving me some advice about make some noise, like write letters and call people, whatever.
Who is that person?
They said make some noise.
That lawyer?
I think it was somebody there, man. I think it was a staff member there at YTS.
Do you remember your first when somebody told you and you was like that first that one time, like, man, you got to do this, or you remember that person?
I mean, I had quite a few of them in my life.
But that first one that started the ball rolling.
I mean, it was my grandmother in death whispered in my ear, That's why I always attribute everything mine to, Definitely.
Mine's probably came from Rochelle McGee.
Who's that?
Rochelle McGee is the longest political held prisoner in the state of California. Been in prison for over 40, probably close to 39, 40 years. He was an A number.
Wow.
And I went to him one day in New Delano, fresh out of YA. I knew my case was messed up. I knew it was messed up. All the gang enhancements, everything. And I was like, hey, OG, I know you good. They're like, oh, McGee, go holler at Mr. McGee. I was like, man, can I pay you to do my legal work for me? I don't even got the money. I can barely go to canteen. I don't know what the hell you talking about. I was going to find a way. And he said, nah, youngster. I'm not going to do nothing for you, and I don't want your money. Damn, I felt offended. Now I want to fight OG now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not knowing who this dude is. He's like,
he's up there, yeah.
Matriarch. You know what I'm saying? He's got so many stuff passed and laws passed. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? He said, you meet me tomorrow at the law library. Now, you got two choices. You can go to the yard like the rest of the yard dogs and all these backdoor slaves, or you can come over here. So the next day, yard opens up 9:15. I'm in the law library, and I wrote every single person in that pro bono log, and it failed at all of them. About 40 of them. I wrote everybody until somebody sent me Elizabeth Calvin's address.
Oh, yeah, I know Elizabeth.
And
She's a
from
good
there,
friend.
it was good. So what's
trippy about that, man, is that, so at some point I started making some noise, right? At the time, noise meant snail mail, maybe a phone call if you had the balls to call somebody, like literally collect, and then they would have to answer. Then you have to be like, okay, showtime, right? But the idea was make some noise. If you really are innocent and you need some help, don't just lay there, I guess, right? So back to this sort of same message. And, what I did by default was I went to the law library and I started looking for Spanish surnames. It's a directory of attorneys.
Yeah.
And I'm only looking for the ones that had Lopez and Sanchez and Carvajal and Carillo, because I thought like, oh, these are people who, will hear Franky Carillo and like rush to my aid.
Right.
My people, right?
Yeah, little Frankie from Lynwood, like they'll identify
Little
me.
Frankie from
Yeah,
Lynwood.
Nobody responded. Nobody.
And were they like desperation pleas? Like,
we're still knocking out the same sort of like, they might have had a little bit of more one notch up from a Mayday. It might have made a little bit more sense, but I wasn't saying much.
yeah.
But still, like, it was I'm not holding that against myself, but it was just a world that I was in. I was like thinking, well, maybe someone who can sympathize with me based on my plight or our people's plight or whatever. I'm thinking.
I mean, which makes strategic. That makes sense. I get it. Like you're grasping. You're operating out of desperation at that point, grasping for anything. So, yeah, I mean that makes total sense.
And
man.
then that went to like, you know what? Let me just write. Like, at some point, it just didn't matter. I wrote Oprah. I wrote 48 Hours. I wrote Geraldo Rivera. Like, whoever I can think of at the time that was, a name, I would just write them.
Geraldo, too. He was.
Geraldo,
and Donahue, they were like it at the time.
Donahue,
like Phil
exactly.
Donahue, yeah. Wow. Okay.
So, but that was like a writing campaign on my free time. Because the way I look at it, especially in YTS, was... I had entered a subculture, this microcosm of the world that I was part of. It was just a miniature world that I had to do my part.
The crazy part about your experience, you were put in certain positions. It's like, the average person that ends up in YA, they go mad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You look at the guys, statistically speaking, look at the dudes that got out of YA. A lot of them right now are sitting in prison because it bred, impulsivity and violence. You were put there, and then they took you away from the violence of the younger dudes. Because believe it or not, you had to mature in a very fast rate. And people might hear this and they think, oh, he talking about 20 years. No, this is a 4-year span that this man has had to think, do this, file an appeal, grow up, be a father, and still maintain his sanity while being held innocently. Bondage.
Yep.
And then to go to they took you out of the violence and they put you in YA. For you to be able to maneuver in YA to get an appeal started shows that, brother, you've been given some blessings to prepare you for later.
Yeah, in the midst of trying to acclimate to just insanity, to sit there and like try to address the Supreme Court, like I remember on my appeal like ran out of time because I had to file like a federal writ within 1 year, that AEDPA, which is like the most discriminatory law.
The worst, yep.
So when I went for like my Ninth Circuit, I got called into court and they said, well, how come you didn't file a federal appeal? I said, because I was 18. My goal was to be alive at the end of the day. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't have a high school diploma. I stopped going to school at like 16, let alone be able to file like a federal writ while trying to acclimate to like Salinas Valley, like a newly open prison. Like, so for you to find out within yourself to at least do that. I surrendered. I gave up. Like,
no, I did.
Sadly,
I gave up in the same place, SYCRCC, Southern Youth Reception Center in Norwalk. I was back there, and I was in Drake.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
I was way in the back. I was in Drake, and the old ladies used to come in. He's coming with these big ass white dogs. They call them Christmas dogs. You know, the old ladies come in there. Everybody call them mama. I'm not finna call this lady mama. I don't even know you. But your old ass be calling you moms like that up in here. And what's up with this big ass white dog? I was like, what the hell? It looked like the bear off the Coca-Cola commercials.
That's funny.
And they would always tell me, hey, file an appeal. You got this amount of days to file an appeal. And I'm like, what is an appeal?
Wow.
What the world doesn't know is that children don't understand the language of law, let alone an adult who's ignorant to the law. So you're in here speaking a whole language, like it's like being in a courtroom and everybody speaking English and you just know Spanish.
Right.
What is he saying?
Well, it's like when he said when you heard bound over, you remember you thought, okay, this is a plus.
I knew nothing, and why there's no they don't have the proper setup for guys that are tried as an adult to file appeals, writ of habeas corpus. There's no law library. They didn't have that.
I think there was only one. In YTS, they had a section of the library was for a law library. There was a guy named Manny or Manuel who worked there. There was never, as far as I can recall, when I was there was never anyone else there. So nobody was worried about, appeals or case, because it's such an interesting world. But like,
it's like when you're here, you're here.
But it's. I'm thinking back now that it was like so much. It was just so much going on, man. It was so much going on. There was like, I mean, like I'll give you an example of like a day in YTS when it came to like, you left your unit after you went to the local. They had like a dining room, like in between the units. You have breakfast, and then you go back to your cell, and then it's trade line, like it's movement time. There's like they'll call out with trades or trade holds, which is like no one's there, whatever. It's like it's a day off, and they go around, open doors, and you're on your way to the on the trade line to go to school.
Yeah,
and these huge groups of people just moving. Units are moving like it's very well oiled machine, right? It's going on.
Yeah.
And so you go where you're going to go, work or school, whatever. But you hit the trade line, and most guys have like a tumbler coffee cup, like a lot of coffee drinking going on, right? Dudes are smoking. It's like a world, man. You get a bar, you got a haircut. There's a barber, you go to school. There's a guy up there who people know he's selling cocaine. The guys at the GED instruct. There's like a whole thing, right?
It's a city.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what was trippy for me was that the guys got me a job in the main kitchen. And I've always been like a young cook as growing up. So for me, food was my jam.
You still got your hand?
Yeah, oh yeah. And so, I became like the local. I was like the YTS's dietitian. So my job at the main kitchen initially was like cooking for the people in the hospital, like specific like low sodium diets or special diets, whatever. And then that went cooking like for the teachers, so my world expanded where like I'm the guy with controlled the food for staff and for everybody at some point.
Which puts you in like a nice, well-positioned.
So at the time, this is before the food that was being freezed. So this is like there was a full-on butcher shop. There was a bakery. There was like the vegetables. Everything you could think of like was at your disposal,
Food
right?
Get you anything in jail.
And so what I started doing was, obviously I wasn't supposed to, but like I started making like black market food that I would cook for like. Burritos or mainly burritos, and so like the orders would go out. I would have staff transport, 20 burritos at UNV and ENF had 40 or whatever.
He said
and
black market. And then I realized in my head, all the shit all the burritos we were cooking in there, we were not supposed to be making that shit. Yeah. He is right. That is black market food.
It's because obviously it's all state issued stuff, and here I am.
Yeah.
I got my own menu, But it's just I think about YTS with like such a sort of poetic experience. I had really had a good time for being incarcerated. I learned a lot of everything there, man. It was interesting, very interesting place.
Wow. I was gonna ask you too. Like, how would you have described it? I didn't think poetic was gonna be the.
Yeah,
Was this
Yeah.
before the death of Miss Baker or after?
So Ms. Baker's death is what moved me to state prison. So,
That happened on your about your 4th year there.
Yeah, 96.
That's when the hell broke loose.
Yeah.
Was it because I remember being in Salinas at that time, and we literally came out to yard in the morning. There was like 75 M numbers, like freshly from prison.
Yeah. I was in the unit above because I used to be in K&L, and because of I worked in the kitchen, they put us in G and H, and so it happened in C and D, so right beneath us. So it was a weekend and super quiet morning, like something was up. For the guys, I think it might have been a Sunday, but for the guys, church was like the Catholic church specifically was where like the gang meeting was at every Sunday.
Yeah.
So like if whatever unit you were from, you went to church because you were going to go be seen and see and pass kites. And
It's always been like that. Even in KL,
I loved
like
it, man.
we would put our jumpsuits under the bed. They'd be creased. You throw on the rosary, and then like you got your note because it's co-ed. You pass it to you. You know,
It was cool, man, because like YTS had like this like you depends what units were there first, but you just stroll in, man. You just mob right into down the middle of the aisle, and you go sit and you're shaking hands and you're saying what's up and okay over here and pass this, and so it's just it's like I'm not sure what I call that. What you guys can help me define that, but
Community
it was
gathering.
but on some other level, it was just
Yeah.
like all the gangsters were there, dude. No, but I mean, it was it was strictly it was like a gang meeting at the church,
So I was in WNX and Y&Z, but we weren't allowed to leave the building because everybody there was 18 or older. We were 14 and up. So the Tehachapi program, after they closed it due to the kids not being educated and they weren't providing anything for them, they needed to find a place for the M numbers. I was E number, so I didn't have, MD number was you had the choice 18, stay in there if you had enough time. They gave me a determinate prison sentence. So they're like, you have to go. There's none of that.
Yeah.
So it was, we still felt the after effects of it because you said something earlier where you said there was a war going on. They used to literally come to our door and tell us that we hate you prison guys. We hate you guys that are sentenced to prison. All you guys with these E numbers. We were all together. It was only about 7 of us. And they would say, it's a war going on. Whose side are you on?
wow.
Blue or green? Choose one. I'm like, what the hell? What is he talking about? I'm a kid, man. What you talking about, man? I'm going to prison. I don't know about none of this shit going on. But it still had the effect because it was an overall thing.
I don't want to try to over glamorize YTS, but YTS had the football pads. It was like you had your team
Everybody
unit.
wanted that, yeah.
There was you were part of the swim club. It was almost like for a kid who came from a world where
You remember the swimming pool next to the gym.
it's funny.
Yeah.
It's funny, but I came from a world where like I inherited like this old fashioned way of living, like Ham's Diner, the bowling alley.
yeah.
In YTS was like the time capsule. So you were doing things that I thought like it was almost like I was like a varsity football, college level, because all those things were in play.
Okay, yeah,
You know, it was if you took away all the fact that you guys were there because they were convicted, it had all the elements of
Progressive
like
programming.
40s, 50s. There was like you ran track. It was just like things that you would not think of would be there. Were there. It was pretty amazing, man, that they were still there when I was there.
Do you think if such programs like they had there, because I know they had college,
Yep.
they had Freemasonry, like when I was in Paso, Freemason, I learned how to run a greenhouse and all that type of stuff, swamp ditching. Do you think if these same progressive programming or positive programming, do you think if that was implemented in our facilities today, it would be better because people have things to do and they're actual trades that are limitless? Like this isn't a trade that next year, hey, we're not making bricks anymore. We're making everything out of styrofoam. No,
Right.
Everybody needs a plumber. Everybody needs a bricklayer. So do you think such programs like that, boxing, football, you know how many dudes would not have 115s if they said, oh, me and this dude got a problem. Oh, let's go to the boxing gym. Let's do this like some men, put the gloves off. It's in a safety manner and go ahead and leave back out.
What was cool was that, well, first of all, I agree that life would be a lot different for everybody, staff, those who are there to, learn new lessons or to reboot, whatever, however you want to describe it. But I can remember when I was in YTS, Smitty was the boxing coach, and I think he was out of Duarte. But there was a boxing team in YTS where folks from the outside would come in and have fights, like full on, like, bing, bing, round one, here we go, right? The local college guy or whatever, right? Or Marines would come in and vice versa. Guys would leave and go fight on the outside. And so like these things, you almost feel like I'm talking about some, 1930s or I don't know what year you would place that.
Yeah.
But to it's kind of interesting to know like what happens now.
Yeah.
To kind of what I've experienced, people ask me, programs on the inside, and I default to like that was the inside. That was in custodial setting, and they had great things, mechanics and culinary arts and barber college and Laverne University would come in and.
And this is at probably one of the hardest places at the time.
It was really tough, man. It was really tough, and drug infested, a lot of Pruno, like all the other stuff was going on. A lot of again, like forget my, So if I was the food guy, if I wanted new boots every day, the warehouse guys, the school guy, like everybody was moving stuff. Everybody was always moving something.
Yeah.
I had access to R&R. I knew the person who worked there, so if someone had something taken away from them, it was like confiscated, I was able to get it back. So like all these channels, not only me, other folks too, right? But like it was it's very interesting thinking about that.
Wow.
So what?
I'm picturing Andy Dufresne right now in YTS right now.
Like, you'll see it. You'll be like
the Latino Andrew.
You'll be like, what the hell? Like even in Preston, when I went to Preston, that's like the southern place. You walk the tray line, bro. They had a studio. They had art class. I learned how to change tires in there.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, you could walk out 10 minutes later, see a dude flying through one of these windows because a fight just broke out. You're like. But then that goes to show to the climate of now, whereas you can't punish everybody for what these people do or these people do. There's still people that want a program. All right, you just flew out of the window. Let me walk around you and go on about my business instead of everybody gets punished for it. So,
well, speaking of punishment, so then we all got punished and were sent to. M numbers were sent to CDC.
Was that a quick? Did they immediately do it after that?
There was no committees, nothing. Maybe a week or two after.
Emergency transfer.
They moved around. And they finally got to G&H where I was at, and I went to Delano, and then from Delano I went to Corcoran, Old Corcoran, and then I got transferred to Donovan for a little bit, and then I went to Folsom.
Old Corcoran. You went. Yeah. Oh, was this before the federal indictment?
So when I got there,
what year Corcoran?
I was there in '96. Corcoran.
Okay, so right after the whole.
Maybe I guess it was right after. Okay. 95 was when the indictment.
Yeah, I believe so.
You're right. Yeah, because there was still shoe kickouts were coming out, but I think that there was already light had been shed already on the stage fights and all that stuff.
And then Delano was New Delano open or
Old Delano.
Old Delano. So they hadn't. They labeled New Delano the super prison because it's so just.
That's current. You went to Old Delano.
Across the
I didn't
street.
think New Delano was.
Kern,
2006. That was one of our my greatest accomplishments. Like when I was in prison, when we were in the dog program in Old Corcoran together. The associate warden came in and they were just like amazed at like the program. It was working. It was good. And he goes, now when people Google Corcoran, this dog program comes up before the gladiator school. So I thank you guys so much. I was like, okay.
It was interesting, man. When I got there, B yard, then I went to C yard. But when I got to Corcoran, where it was like, do your time here, I was in what was I? I guess I was like in whatever tier for reception. It was locked down in B yard, and I was thinking, DeWitt Nelson style of like chow hall. Like, you go there, you have a tray, and you just tell them, 2 slices of whatever, and slide and whatever else, right? Yeah. And it was my first time like in that dining room where it's just like stainless steel and those hard tables and the hole in the wall where a tray came out and you grabbed it, and went and sat down. But it was interesting. I remember, what I thought was the most interesting from going from a very youthful energy. I was kind of excited to go into the adult space because I was envisioning like
Me too.
you too. I was envisioning
I totally
was
get that.
so happy to go to prison. I don't know why. It's gonna sound great if you just turn this on and be like, "Yeah, I'm so happy to go to prison." Like, this crazy ass weirdo. What the hell's wrong with you? Likes that? What's going on?
What I'm not sure what you guys, but what I was envisioning was like a modern day Plato, man, like a Socrates. I was envisioning age equated wisdom and knowledge. So I said, okay, I'm going to be around these dinosaurs, these legends, these just men. Like, because I was the oldest person there was a 25-year-old in YTS. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be around some 60-year-olds or whatever, right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I can't wait for those conversations. You know, like, finally, like a real conversation, right? And I swear to God, man, the moment happened. Like I manifested the moment. The guy's name was I think Lupe was his first name. I'm not sure what he went by, but
Shout out Lupe.
had the mustache, had the look. He had something over his hand. He had the right tattoos.
Creased up,
Creased
head
up,
to toe.
older dude. I'm thinking, oh man, this dude's probably tipped up or something. I don't know who he is, but like he's the older guy. The whole older veterano or whatever. And he's not saying much. I'm not saying much. I'm thinking that's just kind of part of it. You just kind of walk in the track,
Mm-hmm.
and siren, the bell goes off like his yard recall, whatever, and he's still like kind of mysterious. I'm thinking, oh, okay, like this is it, like this is how it, how it's gonna play out.
Yeah.
And the guy says, hey, what's for dinner tonight? And I looked at the dude and I'm like, I've been waiting for you, man, and this is all you got.
Yeah.
What's for dinner tonight?
I'm waiting for some timeless wisdom, like Yeah.
I was waiting for like
the same thing they give every day on the 6th day.
I was thinking like okay, so like you're just got here and like that moment. What I don't know, something.
The rundown, yeah.
I don't know, but other guys got the rundown. But something like here's the guy. Everything was there except like him knocking out some verses about like. Yeah. Something from like deep down about like
philosophical.
At the end of that sunshine is a ray of possibilities.
That's the bar box and your cell closes. I want you to ask yourself every day.
Exactly. What's for dinner?
What's for dinner?
After every push-up.
Yeah.
What's
something, right? And so, it really bust my bubble, man. Because I really at the time was thinking, that naturally as you got older, you got wiser. But then I realized that wasn't the truth. You can be a 7-year-old guy who's thinking like a 15-year-old, and so
that was one of the worst things too. Like seeing like a 50-year-old man walking around the track talking about the same thing that he was talking about when he was a 20-year-old walking around the track.
Sad, yeah.
Oh man,
it's heartbreaking. It really is.
It's heartbreaking.
But it also shines light on what these people have to hold on to. If all I have to hold on to is my childhood, then you look at school for some dudes, like you wanted to get away from that school as a kid, so you left it. So who would say that this guy didn't like school? He can't read. So school is not something that's soothing for him. It's not palatable to the taste of his lifestyle or what he's been through. So that's something he wouldn't speak upon. So you ask him, what is some of your most, like how you said right now, the highlight of, being in there and going through that, right, Brian?
Yep.
What is his highlight of life? That fight that he won. That's the only thing he has to hold on to.
The homies patting him on his back saying, you're a down ass OG
you
or something.
You did that, but can you really blame him?
No, because I lived for praise at one stage of my life. There's nothing I would have done for
it's
that.
It's like a damned if I do, damned if I don't. Like, you're still holding on to that 14-year-old kid. Just like that 16-year-old kid is still in you. Why? Because when you get around your kids, when they were kids, they still seen that youthfulness that dad still had.
Well, I'll tell you, man, that even though I'm kind of like knocking this, this moment that kind of was let down.
Yeah.
He actually, at the moment I was let down, but as life went on, he actually taught me a greater lesson that I even could have imagined.
Give it to us.
So here I am now, giving it to you, right? So Lupe's response to me, at some point, I connected some dots and I said, okay, like here I was, a young man, making these large assumptions about life, about humanity, about adulthood, wisdom, knowledge, some understanding, right? That you pass down, you share. Him not playing that out for me helped me understand that it's not about you having to reach a certain age before you can do that. You can do that at a 25-year-old. You can do that. You can do that at 30. You can do that at 18. So it changed this way I thought about myself and others, that you don't have to reach a certain point in your life where you can start dishing out whatever leadership.
Did you realize that in the moment?
No, sometime after I realized that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because there was this like sort of like reoccurring moment that why I'm bringing up today, because I was looking forward to it, and what I thought was a letdown was actually a lesson all to itself.
Yeah.
You know.
And then even in that, he kind of humbled you, like,
Yeah.
what are you glorifying me for? You know what I'm saying? I'm a
Exactly.
mere man just
Dang,
like you.
yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
And at this time, are you still? Is there still faith in the appeal? Are you banging on making noise?
And then the uppercut comes in. Are you even thinking about the parole board?
Yeah, definitely no parole board. But I'm in transition now, so I left YA. I'm in prison now, and I don't even know if they even had a law library. Some cats knew me from other places, so they're there with me. But what I wanted to do was, I felt that now you can move around. You can ask to be transferred, and so I just happened to hit the lotto. And on my first annual, I asked to go. My points dropped to level 3, and I asked to go to Donovan. Just like, why not? Like, if just go ahead and we'll put it in. If they're going to deny you, but like, at least we'll put it. And so they accepted it. And so to my surprise, I was heading to San Diego, and I was there for a bit. But what happened? I don't know, a year or two later, was that I was getting too comfortable. Too many visits. Too many. My dad died when I was there.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it was tough, man. And I saw the fight. The fight was gone because I was more worried about like food sales and like got really good at handball. So I wanted to be playing. I was going to school and so on. But I said I got to get out of here. And so what others thought I was doing was really sabotaging myself. Was what got me out. And so I went to my annual, and I asked my counselor to put me up for Folsom. It was a level 2. It was a close custody level 2 at the time, or I was going to be a close custody level 2. And the only place was either San Quentin or Folsom at the time, or in Soledad. But so I ended up going to Folsom, kind of where I wanted to go. Because I remember when I was a little boy, my cousin, I have older cousins and even folks a bit younger than me who've been in the joint, YA. So a lot of, again, that same dynamic was going on, not just within my home, but other family members as well. And I must have been about 11 years old, man. And my cousin said, "Hey, Frankie, what's up?" He's like, "Hey, when you get to Folsom, make sure you represent." And I'm like, Folsom? Like, where's that at?
He's seen it.
He was rocking and rolling already. He must have been like 17. He probably been in Nellis, whatever, right? He's been in and out. And he just like, that's just where his mind was at. Like,
It's the
you gotta
culture,
represent.
it's the lifestyle. So that's.
And so I'm like, well, whatever. And then at some point I'm like, oh shoot, Folsom's a prison, whatever. It planted this weird seed in me, man.
I ran into men named after Folsom. Like, that's
Oh, you do really?
Real. The dude named Folsom.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's a place.
Oh, a nickname or something.
That was his gang
handle.
moniker.
Oh,
so it's
got
like,
it.
why they call you Folsom? And then you get to Folsom, like, oh, so that's why he act like that. All right.
I got Folsom cuffs on my pants right
do you?
now.
Nice. Anyway, so I get to so in my mind, Folsom was like end of the road, right? And what I wanted to do was, I don't want any more visits, because I felt like the visits were like just making me too soft. The packages, the food sales, I was just like, I need to go.
You're becoming content with this life.
With the environment, dude. Like, I mean, flat out, Brian, it was just like a situation where it's just like, oh, I've gotten too comfortable,
complacent. Yeah.
And I get to Folsom, and it's like, oh shit, man. Like, all right, I guess this is what you asked for, and it was hard. It was a hard but what happened soon after I got there, I met this dude, Lamont. If I was 26, 27, he was like 50.
Alameen?
And he ran the Muslims. He was out of like San Francisco, Oakland. Wendell James is his real name, but that's what he went by,
The
Lamont.
one you can trust. That's what it means. Alameen.
Is that what it means?
Yeah, in Arabic.
So Lamont was that guy who rolled the yard with like an entourage, like dudes were flanking him because he was that dude. And in Folsom, you can kind of do that, and always well dressed. And someone said you need to meet Lamont because I told him about my innocence, and Lamont was claiming to also be innocent. And hard lines, there was Norteños at the time there, and all the obvious politics. I was in transition through 5 Block, one of the oldest blocks in California. It happens to be at Folsom, and I see him coming, and his entourage stops, and he breaks out of it and comes and gives me a hug during like yard recall, like an embrace, like the handshake, bump, like on the shoulder. And I'm like, fuck, who's like, oh shit, I'm in trouble, man. Like, you know,
Yeah,
like what, like this is, you know, like I felt a little, I felt like a little bit like
Over familiarity.
he was
yeah.
he was operating on like Zen level, and I was still like chakra number 1. I was just like, the energies were like, he was just like, none of this matters what's around us. I see you, I want to embrace you. And I was like, oh man, like I hope nobody saw that.
Do you feel like now, like you being there and you being innocent and him being innocent, you're probably the only person he felt like he could relate to in that whole damn yard?
Was that what that was about?
Yeah. So he spotted me. So he knew, you know, super smart guy. So he what happened was that, you know, we connected and no one said a single thing. It was all in my head, obviously. But Lamont put me on the track to get out. So we talked there for a minute, connected, and then like soon after we just talked for like a couple hours. And he gave me this roadmap. He gave me all these, you know, addresses to write to, and you know, things that I could have not come up with on my own. And I'll tell you guys that as dramatic as I'm making that initial meet and greet, I just thought because it was like dramatic from his end, like his entourage stops and he kind of breaks out of his like bubble.
Nah, that is not dramatic. That's
Yeah, that's yeah.
For me, I just like, oh shit, like this is he's kind of out of character to come and say hi to me, whatever. If I was, look, I'm being accused and doing time for the murder of a black man. If I would have jumped into this sickness about like black, brown, white, me versus them, I would have never even. When someone would have said, "Oh, you need to meet Lamont," I would have been like, "No, I'm cool. I don't. It just sounds like a black guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to meet him." But I was like, "Of course, like, yeah, you know, tell him about me." And I think about that critical moment because, as we all know, that system is designed to like instill these limitations and fears and, you know, everything else. And I'm grateful that the man who came with the roadmap to my freedom I was allowed to embrace. He saw me and I saw him. And I can only imagine if I was a different man, what I would have done at that moment.
And this is on a yard of how many people at the time? That you two literally
Like
of what?
thousands up
1,000
there.
people?
Thousands, yeah.
Yeah, that's a big. The
It's
castle
1
is
yard.
huge.
It's just units. It's only 1 yard. Everyone comes to 1 yard.
It's always crazy too. That reminds me of like I was in Kern Valley one time. We were in a yard and there were 2 guys on the yard and they were mentally challenged. One guy had a very difficult time speaking. It would take him 20 minutes just to say hi and get his name out. The other guy would kind of mumble and whatever happened in their past. And these guys out of that huge yard found each other and used to just walk laps.
Oh, wow.
So it's just, I don't know if it has anything to do with like energies or whatever pulling
You got
together.
something that's ultimate relatable like that. A few months ago, I didn't know Brian got stabbed 13 times?
No, 27.
27
Yeah.
times.
Right, yeah.
Damn.
By some brothers.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I sat there and I was like, man, I didn't even know that. 27, you got stabbed. 27, not, oh, this day. No, he got stabbed at one time.
Wow.
27 times by some brothers. And he can say right after that, it's all good. You know, that's just.
Yeah.
I mean,
Good
it
for you,
was the
bro.
life we were living. It was business. Like I walked in their 115 hearing, said, those are my friends. They didn't do it. They said, he's my friend. We didn't do it to him. And everybody went home. Now, had I had action, of course, I was going to retaliate and all that. But I totally got it. You know, people would always say, well, don't you have like a resentment? Or like, no, absolutely not. If anything, like a respect. As crazy as that might sound to the untrained ear or whatever. But in there, like, you did what you were supposed to do.
Right. Wow.
It's just that takes a lot. I
It's
mean,
the thing, man. I'm grateful we're talking about this because, I mean,
even for me to walk on a prison yard, because outside I have not experienced anything close to Nazi, Ku Klux Klan, any of that type of stuff. You only see that inside California State Prison.
Yep.
I mean, unless you go up to like weird high desert and these backwoods and shit like that, and you see stuff like that. But seeing a dude walking, it wasn't even violence. It wasn't even violence. This dude had a reputation for himself. And I was walking and I seen this dude in Old Corcoran, and he pulled his shirt off. And I had been talking to this dude for about like old man Jake, that's his name. White boy Jake, crazy Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he pulled his shirt off and he was on the weight bars. And I looked at him and I said, but I already got to know you first.
Right.
But if I'd have known that you had a noose tattooed around your neck, you know what I'm saying? No matter what you say, I know what that noose signifies. You have a noose tattooed around your neck, the whole rope going down your spine. And I'm like, damn, we have to coexist.
Wow.
I still have to give you the respect. This is your opinion. Stay on that.
Yep.
I'm glad that you represent that and you put it out there. I'd rather you draw the line right here. I go my way and you go your way. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But it's that type of stuff of just dealing. You have to deal with it when it's on the spot. So it's people don't realize that about prison.
Yeah.
You have every single person in here. You have hate groups. You have dudes, terrorist crimes, and all that type of stuff. You see these things going on, but you just, do you let it pass? No, you deal with it internally. You see it. You see all the stuff. You know, it's hate here. It's hate here. The cops may do this. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they go in and tear your artwork down, or you may have a picture of your mom, and they may throw it in the toilet. It takes a serious person who's committed, like you were committed, because y'all had life. I come from a person that had a determined sentence. So it's hard. I guess that shit is just, I can't, to this day, I'm still sitting here like, how? What? Because when I was going through that case and I was facing that 50 to life for that staff assault, he watched me get just drug out in cuffs, and I got hit with a case, and I fought it for 3 years, and I was innocent, and I was placed in a shoe, and they put me on the chilling effect. They put me on the cooling effect. Just going through that, know you're innocent, and you finna get out. And y'all are better people than me. Just know that. Because I told myself going through that case before we got to the trial with 5 Loyola, Professor Hawthorne, all of them were in my court date in Kings County. And I told myself, I said, damn, if I lose this, I'm going to kill something. And I'm going to keep on killing. Because ain't no way I'm finna be an innocent man sitting inside this jail for free. Somebody going to have to pay. Not everybody like y'all. You know what I'm saying? And I'm content enough to say that if I was an innocent person put inside of a jail for something I didn't do, somebody has to pay. As fucked up as it may seem, but it's the reality. You know what I'm saying? That's y'all are some incredible people. People, it's hard to do that. Like, it's hard to sit in there. It's hard to go to the parole board and get turned down. Especially some of the brothers I talked to. I know 2 dudes that they didn't do it. You know they didn't do it. And for them to go to the parole board, and the parole board, you have to say, I committed this crime. And for this dude to go up there every 3 to 4 years and say, I didn't do it. And the parole board is like, well, we'll let you out if you say you did it.
I know quite a few people.
Yeah, I didn't do it. They sending back.
So Elamine schools me, and I'm a student. You know, I'm this man student, and he eventually leads me to Tony Carter, who is a teacher at Folsom, and I became her teacher's aide. And so through Tony, I was still writing letters. She was a free staff teacher. She would edit my letters or read them over, and I was still in this letter game. Now Folsom doing the same thing, Elamine's advice and so on.
How long have you been down by this point?
15 years.
Okay.
That's determination.
Tony on a Monday says, Franky, as you know, just showing you some respect, I retire this week. This is my last week. So maybe start looking for another job. GD instructor, you know, I've been working there for a couple of years, so cool, right? So, okay, cool. That night, went through the motions, eventually got showered, went to my cell, and, you know, watched a movie, went to bed, whatever. And I had a dream. And the dream wasn't really a vision of it wasn't a visual. It was more like this message, this verbal message. And all I can remember was, ask Tony to help you. That's it. Ask Tony. I woke up like, ask Tony to help you. And so Tuesday goes by, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's her last day, you know, and she's actually leaving the schoolhouse. And I don't have the courage to say much, right? I can write you a letter all day long saying, hey, I need help and come get me, whatever. Mayday, right? But here it is in person.
Yeah.
And her back is, she's walking away. And I said, Tony, and a little bit louder. And finally, Tony, third Tony, she turns around and says, like, did I forget? Like, yeah, like, what's up, you know? And I walk over to her and I said, Tony, like, you know my plight, you know what I've been going through. Now that you're retired, if you come across a lawyer, a reporter, anybody you think can help me, would you share my story? Seemed fairly simple. She's like, yeah, I can do that. I felt huge relief that I asked her and she said yes, and she left. About 6 months after that, she's retired, living in Sacramento, and she's at a function. There's a guy named Bo Lozoff who wrote a book about like prison yoga.
Yeah.
So Bo Lozoff is in town.
I know the book, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called We're All Doing Time.
We're all doing time, like little meditations and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Bo Lozoff is in town as like on a book tour, basically. And she's already met Bo Lozoff. She's read Bo Lozoff's book, but she got an invite to go, you know, for his book tour. And it happens to be at a prison volunteer, a Folsom prison volunteer, Judy, who was my Tai Chi instructor. So she never knew about my story, but she was hosting Bo Lozoff. And so Tony, retiree, shows up, and there's Bo Lozoff doing his thing. And during the Q&A, someone stands up or raises their hand and says, you know, hi, my name is Ellen Eggers. I'm a lawyer. By the way, can you tell me about that, you know, downward dog or whatever, right? But she announced that she was a lawyer, like all good lawyers should do, because it's very egotistical, right? Like, hey, I'm a lawyer or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But good for her, good for me, she said she announced that she was an attorney because Tony was paying attention. She said, oh, there's a lawyer here. Let me go see if I can share Franky's story with her. So Tony tells Ellen. Ellen is moved by the story. The following week, she goes to Folsom Prison to visit me. And for the next 5 years, Ellen attracts the attention of the Innocence Project in Northern California. She attracts Morrison & Forster, which is a huge international law firm, Loyola Law School, Scott Wood, Ray Nardini. All these people just kind of came together, and they solved this case. And they finally were able to prove that boy on January 24th, 1991, when he said and chuckled like, no, that wasn't me, you got the wrong guy, was telling the truth. And so they were able to prove what I thought and other people in my world prison thought would never happen.
Was this without DNA or anything?
Without DNA, yeah. So when I was in the joint, people would mock me. I knew they would mock me.
Why?
Because it's like here we go again, right? Like, you know, dude's still at the law library, he's still talking about his case, he's still dreaming, right? Just give it up,
come
dude.
true.
Just give it up, you know? I'm sure when I call my family, they're like, oh my God, this dude's talking about his damn case again, you know? All these years later, here we go. I'm sure they wouldn't admit to it, but I'm sure it was happening. So, so even when they told me in my face, fellow prisoners, you know, Franky, what has to happen for you to get out? And I'm like, yeah, I got to find the evidence. Like, no, forget the evidence. He says, how many people testified against you? I said 6. He says 6 people, wherever they are in the world, have to all agree that they lied. They have to recant, all of them, not just one, all 6 of them. Where are you from? LA County. Who was involved in your case? The Sheriff's Department. You have to prove that the Sheriff's Department coerced these witnesses to lie against you. You know how hard that is?
Yeah.
You have to prove that a jury conviction, which when it's all said and done with, it's it's like you're dead basically. Like you can't overturn a jury conviction. Like a jury conviction means there's
beyond reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
it's over.
It's done.
You got to prove that the Constitution of the United States of America, which was intended to protect you, let you down. You know how hard it is to
Just hearing that now, it's like
Yeah, it's like I'm sitting here like, are you helping me or what? Shit, I can go drink some coffee on the yard right now. Like,
but he was being realistic. He was trying to break it down to me, like all these things, not just one or two, all of them have to happen.
he gave it to you real.
Flat out, dude.
Which is
flat
true.
out.
Yeah.
And this and it I was just like, okay, well, here we go, right? Like I'm gonna keep trying. So they prove it. All these things that I'm listing happened. These amazing people who just wanted to just give me a chance of justice finally prevailed. And so we're back in court basically.
What's the moment when it's over? Like, is it a
For
letter?
me,
Was it a court? Is it a letter? Is it a decree from the judge?
So we prove that we've met our standard of we got it. This is a deal, done deal. One of my attorneys says, this is not a adversarial situation now. Let's talk to the DA about what we found. And so they do, and they meet with the DA, and then the DA, another connection within the department, they do their own internal investigation. Same conclusion. Damn. So now you have my defense attorneys, the DA's office combined they've solidified, and they're going to file a joint petition to the court to basically say, like, there is no fight here, Your Honor, just sign it, let this guy out.
So all 6 of these jackasses went up and said that it wasn't you, because that's what they are. It's some cowardly jackasses. These great American hero, aka jackasses, who told this bold-faced lie. Did they all come up and say, "Look,
They did.
we lied"?
It
Wow.
took 5 years though. Yeah.
It took them each individual a minute to get to that moment, but they eventually all came forward and said, I think 5 out of 6, but regardless, even the 6th one became 6. Like they all did it.
And you said it ended in a letter court.
It ended in, so what happened was that, so back to the Lynwood Vikings, these deputies who were now no longer deputies, they're now second in command, third in command, fifth in command. Like they're the cream of the crop of the sheriff's department now. Catch wind of what's going on. They're going to expose some of their old work here. And after my team and the DA's office agreed to just let me go, someone with the DA's office asked just a very basic question was, have you notified the investigative office? In this case, the sheriff's department.
Ooh.
So they said no. Well, give them a courtesy, let them know what's going on, and so they do. And from Lee Baca, number 2 was Paul Tanaka, which is the guy who was there when I was arrested. He's a Lynwood guy.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Lee Baca, face trial, convicted, sentenced. Only reason why he didn't go to prison because all of a sudden he caught dementia at the end of it.
Right.
And then second came in. Who was the other guy?
Paul Tanaka.
Paul Tanaka came in to replace him.
So he's number 2. So the number 2, chair, vice chair, president, vice president, number 1 and 2. 2 was Paul Tanaka. Paul Tanaka was a known Viking. He was
You got to replace Lee Baca, right?
He was a sergeant on my raid team. So when I was arrested that morning, he was the guy commanding, okay, this is the layout of Franky's house. Well, I mean, whatever they do to, he's the guy in charge of that operation. So I consider him being part of the arrest team.
Yeah.
Number 2 guy. At the time he's a sheriff. Now he's number 2. So they catch wind of what was going on, and they said, no, hell no. DA, we're supposed to be buddies here. Don't let him out. Whatever you got to do, don't let him out. And so, so then they got political.
Brother, it's always been political, brother.
Yeah.
Always.
You always been the point. You were a political prisoner, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, no matter how they look at it, you didn't get convicted of a crime. You got convicted of being you and a scapegoat.
That's right. So these guys were doing everything possible because now they would say, no, give us an opportunity to prove that what you both determined to be his innocence, we're going to prove to you that he's guilty. And so they said, okay, well, I guess, we work, we're all here, trying to get to the bottom of it. So they gave them an opportunity to go find and prove that I was guilty. And so they went and talked to confidential informants. They went and talked to old friends of mine. They were trying to do everything possible to avoid me getting out. They went to Folsom, interviewed me. I mean, they were just doing things they were not supposed to be doing on all kinds of levels. Anyway, so long story longer, they can't do it. They can't interfere. They can't interfere. They tried. It was now exposed. And what they were able to do was force the DA's office to take me to court, have the judge, don't just let him go, have a judge determine and hear all the evidence, let the judge make a call. Which is obviously a lot harder. Like now you gotta get the witnesses in and all that stuff.
Typically, a judge won't change the sentence of somebody else that's no longer sitting if the judge is retired or has passed away. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, here we go, right?
I'm picturing just mercy. Like
so instead of going from just like, okay, DA, defense attorney, we shake hands, judge sign, nobody even knows I'm out. I'm out. Now we got to fight. I'm down from Folsom, get to the county jail, and I get there, and, I know I'm making the story longer than it needs to be, but, there's at least 10 cops waiting for me, and the bus pulls up.
I can
Carillo. I'm like, here we go, right? So they come get me. I forget what unit it is, but it's high power, and it's just like dungeon level, But before they got there, sleep deprived. He's here. Let's get his ass. Let's see whatever they can do to tactfully to mess with me. 1 week long now habeas corpus hearing, like a mini trial by judge, and everybody's just coming to court. It was actually what it felt like, man, for me, was that I get to court and my attorney's got some clothes for me. I had so many attorneys, they needed to get like at least 15 attorneys on the defense table. Like you need to get like another table. Like it was just so much stuff going on. Right. And which is obviously a lot different than the first time. They said, Franky, we got some clothes for you. The bailiff will bring them to you. Like you have to be presentable in court. And I just I'm not going to wear any clothes. Like, no, I refuse to put on what I thought was like civilian clothes. Free, like regular stuff.
Why?
I just felt like, who am I trying to pretend? Like, who am I trying to fool here? Like the judge knows where I'm at. This is not a jury.
Right.
But your family will be. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not gonna put on any. Like, I'm not gonna pretend to be free.
Take me as I am.
Like, okay. Fuck it.
Yeah.
And they're like, come on. I'm like, look, man, let's just get the show on the road. Like, don't embarrass me. I felt like I was being embarrassed. Like witness after another. Right. Everybody gets a chance to get up there. And on the last day, even the woman who, Mariana Escalante, who I consider a friend now, the DA who prosecuted me, comes to court and says, she's crying on the stand about how bad she feels about what happened, right? So it's all being played out.
The original prosecutor got
original
up.
Dude, yeah. So the last moment was really to your point about when was the moment?
Yeah.
The DA in their closing argument, Brent Ferreira, guy I call a friend today, just kind of stops talking, looks over at me and is like, Your Honor. In a nutshell, he basically says that we've been able to prove our case, and that the LA County District Attorney's Office has taken the position to concede, we throw in the white towel. No reason to try to give you the judge, any pressure. What do I do? Yes or no? We're just saying, you know what? They win. He just concedes. Wow. So, everyone in the court is like, wow, like ballsy.
Did your lawyer reach over and
All of them, dude. Like it was just
yeah.
Did you get up and run out? Because I would have ran out just in case they changed their mind. I
you know, my brother. So we're
moment-
talking about the sheriff's department, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, so what happened was that I'm thinking, okay, tonight they'll let me go. Took them 2 days to find the keys to get me out of my cell. So
Come on, bro.
I swear to
Now we
God.
being real petty now.
I swear to God. I mean,
God.
I'm saying it that way, but I'm thinking, come on, you heard the judge on the 14th of March say you're free to go. On March 16, I'm still in the men's central jail in this rat hole that they have me in.
That is real dangerous.
It's just like not cool, dude. It's just like I'm kind of losing. Like those are the hardest 2 days of 20 years. Like, did I hear the judge correctly? What's going on? You know?
So at this point, you've been incarcerated 20 years.
A little bit over 20 years, yeah. And so my attorneys are coming. I mean, it's like every moment of humiliation they can like put on me. It's like they do it, right? So they're like, Franky, like it's day 15 now, like whatever day after the judge said get out. So they come visit me. They're still like waiting for me to get out. And I don't know how they did this, dude, but they take me to a visiting room. And I'm all, leg, all the chains they can put on me. But I get there and they stretch my arm. They like cuff me to like way over there. And they cuff me to like way over there. And I'm thinking like, is someone gonna come into the room? Like, are they gonna like let them in the room? This is why they're handcuffing me this way. And the guy says, put your like shoulder, like go like this. Because it was like right behind glass. So I have the phone right here. Okay. And I'm like this, dude. Like if I drop it, like I'm assed out.
Wow.
And they walk in. This is what they see. Like, I mean, it's psychological warfare, man. You know,
Right.
It's like, did they have to do that? It's petty. Like, look, they weren't hurting me. It was like they were shocking me under the table or something. But like,
No, that's shocking.
what are you doing that for?
Because you walking free is the ultimate noise ever. Like it just shines the biggest bright light on like what they did to this kid, man. Consistently,
right?
You know.
And then I've always learned because I didn't sued wardens before. You know, I've been used to. I was the guy that was doing 602s because I knew about the appeals process, and they used to tell me, you know, when you play with our money,
yeah, exactly.
that's when we got a problem. I don't care about you doing life. Care about you? What are you not one of us?
Yeah, they were worried about that lawsuit, and so
Yeah.
you know, obviously, I got out, guys, and I'll fast forward to the good part. You know,
Was there any part of it was just straight release? It wasn't like you can't sue us, you can't do this, you can't.
just doors open one day, and so you know, TMZ moment. I get out the men's central jail, and you know, they try to give me some, again, even the last move, man, they try to give me some like rhinestone like jacket.
Rhinestone?
Like, dude, it was such a stupid moment.
They gave
So these dudes were waiting for me at the like, you know, I don't have anything, right? So they said, okay, put this on. And it was like literally like a blazer with like every bejeweled you can think of, right?
What year was this?
This is 2011.
2011.
And the pants might have been whatever, but it was still like, he's like, that's all we got. I'm like, no, I'm not going to wear this shit, man. Like, come on. That's all we got. Like, you want to get out or not? And I'm like, nah, man. So the guy who actually escorted me down there, this Latino dude, he's like, man, what? Like, let me see what else is back here, you know? And he gave me like this like oversized, like, you know, wasn't a salmon color polo, but
he gave you another polo.
It was another polo.
We meet again. 20 years later.
Some striped polo, right?
Yeah.
So then, of course, I walk out, and you know, all the cameras are there, and family and friends are there, and so on. So that was a great day to be free, you know.
Wow.
March 16, 2011, man. So
March 16, 2011, after 20 years.
Yep. So from the age of 16 to 37, I was, you know, it's cool. One of the local stations caught me like looking up, like sun was coming down on me. It was great, you know. But, you know, guys, before we get into the part about what I've been doing, you know, I want to just sort of capstone this episode and say that as viewers know, as you guys personally know as well, and I know, like this system is designed to break you down to like the lowest common denominator of just being a human being. Strip you names, strip you of identity, strip you of to be able to dream a future. And it's supposed to really design to break you and to really take all the fight out of you. And so I'm as I move into now post incarceration, I knew from the day I got out that what they were trying to get from me, they couldn't do it.
They try to dim your light.
Real.
They didn't get it.
You know, no matter
You
what,
know,
good's gonna come over. You know what I'm saying?
It's a trip, man. Like I think about it, like they were trying to like what eventually led me to be to where I am today was this belief in myself and humanity, being optimistic, whatever, right? Whatever words I want to add to it, but like my spirit was intact.
You protected your essence.
Exactly.
And you still had that innocence.
And I love crying about it, man. For me, this is like how I celebrate on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not, oh, poor me. Like, no, this is like my like this is a parade that's happening in my spirit right now, to be like, my heart to be like, yeah, dude, like you rocked that, man.
Man, like what would break like the average person? I asked him in the beginning, like, is there anger or resentment for like just what life has done to you? Like unfair, like completely unfair, like almost from day one, like,
right.
You know?
And that was the only
It's
thing.
interesting. It's interesting.
Just because you get, it's like when the dude, like you just say the dude been down 30-something years. It's the only, see, this for me, this crying, I wish I had what you had. I got to go through this to cry. Because I'm still traumatized by that. I'm still traumatized by the upbringing. Men don't cry. That's not what we do. We don't. What you showing this for? That's a sign of weakness. That'll get you killed, bro. Women cry. Babies cry. And they cry over stuff. Men don't do that because we don't have the time to do that. You know what I'm saying? Shit has to be done, and we have to be the ones to do it. You know what I'm saying? So, I thank you.
Thank you, brother.
You know what I'm saying? I thank you. You still held on to that innocence. That's 20-something years, and he's able to hold on to it.
You know, I'll tell you guys. You know, so today in 2023, I'm a county commissioner. So I oversee the probation department one of the things I do in my everyday life. And so my role now takes me into the juvenile halls at 1 a.m. or for breakfast, and I interact with their staff. And the idea is to make it's just an oversight body. And so I'm in these spaces. So it's interesting to see. Sometimes I see myself in these kids. You know, there's one that kind of maybe might look like me or might trigger some memories, but you're right. The layout's still the same.
Right.
But I'll tell you guys that at the core of this is that when I came home, I love my family. I wish that my family and I, my blood family, would be like every other family, a healthy version of whatever family we can think of. But I, as you guys also are well aware, that when you're not there, you kind of grow apart, and they live their lives without you, and then you show up one day and there's no catch up, there's no rewind.
Yeah,
they're too far ahead in whatever is going on, and so for me, this advocacy button for my life, for others on the inside. Now the new people in my life, these amazing attorneys and advocates who came to me, majority, I didn't ask everybody because it's not what I do, ask them what their political parties are, but I know now that they're Democrats. And so like the party, embraced me by default. So I started doing things when I got out that would align with, work at the Capitol, getting involved with propositions and the death penalty, reform with juvenile justice, working with Elizabeth Calvin, like on and on. And this kind of became my family, but I still kind of didn't feel like, it still felt weird, it still didn't feel like the way I thought it would feel, but at least I was in the right space.
Well, I mean, you embody like resilience and wow, like this is big. This was a big, I learned so many things. I'm so grateful to you for so many reasons. I told you when I first met you, that time in the stand-up cage in the Courtroom shoe, it was a room, it was like 10 people, but that was a pivotal moment in my life. This one is too. You represent, basically what we're trying to do. We're trying to show that change is real, change is possible, despite, what you've been through, that, you can recover from it. We still have a lot to offer the world, good positivity to put in there. That's what we're trying to do here. You know, elevated conversation, unusual alliances is what we like to say.
Mr. Fab.
Yeah.
Mr. Fab, cool people.
But yeah, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, man, I thank you. And I'm sorry for everything that you had to go through.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brian Dante. I really appreciate you guys. You know, I think what I knew about coming into this podcast was, you know, dynamics from your previous life that would have normally not kept you from sitting next to each other or being friends, and to know that, you know, as you said, you know, post shoe and the dog program and what made you guys, didn't force you guys to be friends, but look what it turned out to be, you know. Right. And so it's breaking these like paradigms, or breaking these so-called rules that people have to live by, and like we can create our own, man. And so to your point, like you're right, like we're ambassadors of hope, we're ambassadors of change, we're ambassadors of whatever, fill in the blank, right? Second chances and beyond. Right. So I'm really grateful to be here, guys. Thank you so much.
Of course, I got 2 questions.
Yeah.
We'll be here all day.
I got 2 questions before we go, and this means, it really means down in the core of me, to my soul. Could you please say something to the fellas that are inside there, especially the lifers that you know, some guys, they're going to hear, they might be at that point in their time where they just want to give up, or they got the family that's not supporting them, or it's just everybody's gone. You know, a lot of brothers, they outlive their family during this life sentence. That's one thing. Could you address them and just give them some words of hope? And then number 2, send a message to the people out there that are working with our youth.
You know, I'll take it in that order. So addressing folks who are still on the inside, you know, especially with folks who maybe lost hope, or, you know, facing either a young, fresh sentence that's long, or maybe one that's sort of expired and wondering why they're still there. You know, one of the things that I did that helped me get out, I really believe this, no matter the circumstances, it helped me get out, is that I started pretending to be free when I was in prison.
Fake it till you make it.
So there was a guy or guys who would give you the breakdown, like, hey, you know, hey, youngster, you know, how much time you got? Oh, you got 5 years. Okay, you know, maybe, you know, here's a little roadmap to how you should do your 5 years, or whatever it might be. And as an observer, I would be like, well, that's pretty good advice. You know, they got that. Like, yeah, they can do that. You know, kind of waste your time and towards the end, get it together, and then you get out. And at some point I realized, you know what, that's the worst advice ever. What they should be saying is, you got 5 years, start knocking out some school now. If you're smoking, stop smoking, start working out. You got relationship building, go to church, whatever, you know, just from now. Don't wait until the 4th year and then that last year, do it. And so I took that to heart, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna pretend to be a free man and not tell anyone. I didn't tell my cellie, I didn't tell my coworkers, I didn't tell anyone. And I just said, okay, what does a free man mean to me? What do I want to be? How am I going to be when I get out? And what came to my mind was, I want to be respectful. I want to be kind. I want to be patient. I want to be understanding. I want to be, you get it, right?
Yes,
These
sir.
qualities that I want to
Would you live
I want
next
to
to you?
embolden, I want to find. If I don't have them, I want to start practicing them. And I started thinking about myself differently. I'm like, you know, because now I was seeing myself as being worthy, as being, I had outgrown the limited vision that they had imposed on me. I was now that little pot with that huge plant that had been growing. Mm-hmm. Felt that was me. I felt that I was that kid with that old school Halloween mask that had a bunch of duct tape and rubber bands. I was still trying to hold it together. And for me, I was like, you know what? I got to break that pot. I gotta let it all go and just be someone new. On the youth end, I look back and I say, how was I impacted when I was a kid? And so when I was a boy, what I remember was that men and women of a certain age were being adults. They were saying things to me that maybe I didn't want to hear, or they were correcting me, or they were, they were speaking. But what I realized what they were doing was they were just planting seeds. They weren't expecting me to fall to the ground and see reform on the spot. And so I think that like what people who are in that movement of giving guidance, especially to youth, young adults, understand that your job is to instill these seeds, this advice. You probably won't live or be around when that seed takes form, and he's like, oh, now I see what he meant. Might be 10 years down the line, might be 5, might be whatever. Be satisfied that you have the privilege to be able to infiltrate when that young man or woman or person drops their guard and is listening. Because I think what happens sometimes it gets a little egotistical, and we think like, didn't you hear what I just said? Man, I just did 37 years, man. You're supposed to be like listening to me, or whatever. I don't know, whatever people think. And the idea is about just our job is just to seed those soil, see those seeds, and hope that the next person waters it, and then eventually this person will remember the same way I remember that probation officer gave me some words of advice, my father, the teacher, random person on the bus, whatever. That's my makeup. This tapestry of people guiding me, pushing me, moving me, and instilling these words of advice. Even Lupe, who just said, "What's for dinner tonight?" Which is kind of what I'm worried about right now. What's for dinner?
Let's do it. Hey, Franky, we thank you
Yes,
for joining us here, and everybody watching, we encourage you, leave some comments. Let us know moments that inspired you, moments that provoked thought, because I know for me there were a lot of them in here, and yeah, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Took a picture of you guys, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, that's the
Bam,
wrap.
there you are. Got it. Well, thank you guys. I better
Yes,
get
sir.
home.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, we got to get the group picture.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, next.